Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Ooh, hot mic. Good morning to you. That's too loud. That's too hot. It's too hot. Too hot, baby. I can't remember that song, but it was a good song. It was from the. Was it from the 80s? Was it like the Commodores or something? Now I need to know. Too hot. It was like a sweet song, even though it was Cool in the Gang. Commodores. Gonna look for shelter. Gonna run for. Wait, what's that? Was that it? That's not. Is that the song? Cool in the Gang. Thank you. It is. At 17, we fell in love. High school sweethearts. Love was so brand new. We took the vow of man and wife forever for life. I remember. This is such a sweet song. Like, if I was ever gonna get married again, this might be my first dance song. No, I'm kidding. Good morning, Neil. Bonjour, mes amis. How are you? Welcome back to Wake and Bake with Lolo. Yeah. It's really nice to be back. Good morning, Lee. Excellent. Gosh, that's right. I keep forgetting it is so far in the future. I am enjoying my holiday Monday. Indeed, I am. What's a good song? Okay, you know that song, Tom. Do you remember that song? I don't even know how old you are, so I'm assuming I shouldn't assume anything. Too Hot by Kool and the Gang from 1979. Oh, that was when I was a freshman in high school. I mean, in the fall. Okay, not like before then. Badger, badger, badger. Too hot, baby. We gotta run for shelter, gotta run for shade, 'cause it's too hot, babe. Yeah, 'cause you probably weren't born then. Which is basically the story of my life. Because everyone's younger than me. There comes a point in your life. I'm not kidding about this either. So, young people, pay attention. There comes a point in your life. I kind of felt like I was always this way, but maybe it wasn't. It was just probably in my head, obviously. But I always feel like my friends are all younger than I am. Yes, Lee. Thank you. Thank you. Too hot, baby. Gotta cool this anger. What a mess we made. Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not so sure about that, but it is what it is. Think about the alternative, but I'm bummed. He didn't. Oh no! Oh my God, you guys! I got new sounds. Hold on. Wait, hold on. I couldn't figure out how to get them on the soundboard, but anyways, a long story. But I have new sounds. Hold on. Wait, where are they? I made them like. Hold on. Oh, this one.
Tinky Winky,
Tinky Winky,
Dipsy, Lolo, Ho, Teletubbies.
New song.
Say
Hello. That's for GP. Oh wait, those are British, right? They're not Australian. Sorry, GP. I didn't mean to make you British all of a sudden. How are you? How is everybody? Butterflies, good morning. I hope you guys are having a good weekend. You are still in the weekend. Oh my God, it's so hot here, and I have to close my window in the mornings. Woof, girl. It's getting hot in here. Tom hasn't worked for me. Wait, what? Tom, with age comes wisdom. Yeah, no. I think I can attest to the fact that that's just a big myth. That's what they tell you when you're younger. And it's not true. Oh, it's good to see everyone. I love disco too. New sounds. Oh, they're good too. Butterflies. Just wait, man. I got it all. Hold on. Wait, what else do I have? Hold on. What else? Hold on. I can't see what. I hate this little soundboard. It's too tiny. What's this one? What's this one? Oh, that's warning. We already did that one. Oh wait, this one.
Ha ha, laugh, funny.
That's funny.
To me, it's funny. Yeah, do you have a sense of humor?
Do you have a sense of humor? Wait, what else do I have? Da, 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 da. I think those are already. Oh wait, this one. Here we go. Good morning.
That's my opinion!
That's my favorite. I like Tamara. She's my favorite. Tamara from Orange County is my favorite Real Housewife, just so you know. Let's see what else. What else did I get? No, that's not it. Okay, wait. Na, 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 na. Oh, here we go. Wait, this one's good. Oh no, that's not the one. I mean, that's a good one, but I think I misread it. Get that fans. That fan is spinning right in my face, butterflies. Let me tell you. When you know, you know. Is that what that means? I don't even know. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Oh God, sweat running down my face. Okay, wait. Hold on. Let me open this. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Okay. Wait. Oh man, why am I not signed in? We're no. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, great. All right. Open voice. Okay. Okay, here it is. Oh my God, you guys. Oh my God. Okay, it's going to take a minute, okay? But it's Monday and it's a holiday, so just relax. Okay, we'll start out with the silly ones. Okay, so like there's this. There's that. Okay, stop. I don't know how to stop it. Oh, okay, that's how you stop it. Okay, and then we have a gong. Those ones are normal. Okay, but then I have some other voice modifiers. Okay, here we go.
Let's see if this one. Oops, hold on. Okay. Can you hear just the banana voice, or do you hear my voice too? Do you just hear banana voice? Okay. All right. There's that one. Is that funny? Okay, good. It works. Okay, because they get better.
Okay. Listen. I am the demon. Yes. No, I am the demon. No, I am the demon. I have a soundtrack. Okay. And this one is the last voice modifier for now. And I'm just an asshole. I don't know how to tell someone else to say to you. I'm just a total asshole. I don't even deserve half the grace that I'm ever given. And yeah, so that's better. I got mean sounds. I got new sounds. I got new sounds. Jane. Okay, that's the last of the sounds. Okay, I mean the last of the voice changers. Now it's just sound effects. There we go.
Uh-oh.
Ow. No, it's the demon. That's what it's called anyway. All right. Oh, and then this is for, when I don't know. I can't think of someone who tries to act sexy in the Converse, but if there was someone, we'd play them this song. Yeah. Hello. What's bigger, Argentina or Brazil? Brazil. Jane, Brazil. Brazil is a trick question. Yeah, if you flatten Chile, yeah, maybe, but no. That's so sexy song. And then... We're just going over the new sounds. anyway, so that's a new song. This
2,000 years later.
that will help us a lot. Let's see. Oh, here we go.
I'm too sexy for my shirt. Too sexy for my shirt. So sexy it hurts.
Like that one. Okay, hold on. What else? Oh, wait, butterflies. Did anyone see Patriot Front marching in Kansas? When I see them, they may as well be in woods with their faces covered. Yeah, no, this is like a weird. I'm going to tell you right now. I officially can't handle chuds anymore. And I've reached my breaking point. My breaking point. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing that. In late 19th century and early 20th century, it was common for people to have picnics. Yeah, I recall that in cemeteries on Memorial Day. I recall that. Oh my gosh, the hair in my mouth. Are you going to? Is someone going to visit their loved ones? Just saw USPS working today. Is it? Graveyards? I'm not sure. Graveyards were often the closest thing to public parks. That makes sense. Yeah, Max, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I would do it. I don't have any problem. I mean, my dad is buried at alongside his brother, who died in World War II as well. Well, they were both in World War II, and his brother died. They're both buried up at a military cemetery up in Northern California. So I would go there. It's beautiful. All right, let's see here. There's more sounds. Our family gardens, I planted flowers. Oh, Jane, that's so sweet. I think that's so beautiful. Wow, Jane, that's really lovely. Oh, I think that's really lovely. Let's see. We've got some more sounds. Hold on.
It's business time.
You know when I'm down to my socks, it's time for business. That's why they call business. Sucks.
If you haven't seen Flight of the Conchords, I don't even know who you are. Why are you even here? No, I'm just kidding. And then I actually happened to show very late at night. There was a very late night movie last night in Discord. Sorry about that. I really fucked up with the timing. But I actually ended up playing The Shining. So
Here's Johnny.
that's what we watched.
Now I am really pissed.
I've got that one.
Shampoo my crotch.
You can't handle the truth.
We had to have that one, right? Yeah, what didn't you plan, Jane? Plant.
The answer would be no.
I was on Obama. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place this morning.
The answer would be no.
Yeah.
Shit's getting way too complicated for me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm not more serious this morning.
And his name is John C.
Midnight in the Garden of Evil, that's cool. I went down to that, actually. When you go to Savannah, well, I went to Savannah many years ago. Many years ago. But when you go to Savannah, you can take a tour that was or you could at that point, take a tour that was based on Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. It was such a good tour. Like, it was so good. So if you read that book and you go to Savannah, if they still have that tour, I would highly recommend it because it really was a wonderful day. Hot as balls, but a wonderful day. And then I know I used to watch WWE, so apologies because I really love like certain wrestlers. So I apologize. Yeah, definitely. If you go down to Savannah, check out. I'm sure they must still have it in some form. But yeah, here. That's like a good, it's Roman Reigns, but that's like a good generic, like, you know, what is that? We have, well, no, we don't have any of that sound bite, but it's another song. It's called the something. I don't know. You know, the something. Okay, here, I'm almost done. Here we go.
Fatality.
Yeah, I got a bunch of these.
Superb.
Yeah.
Fight. Outstanding.
Uh-huh.
Smoke.
I like that smoke one. And then a break still to see. Oh, I thought you broke a dish. Oh, here we go. There's a little Betty Davis.
But your
almost done.
arm, Blanche. You are in that chair.
Yeah, you are in that chair. Oh, this one, you guys are gonna love this. This is for you guys.
This goes in your mouth. This one goes in your ear. And this one goes in your butt.
If you know, you know.
But Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
It's got electrolytes. Here we go.
Go away, Baton.
And then this is good just because I love this sound. Boom from mines. Oh, here we go. Here's another one.
America. 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 Fuck yeah. Coming again to see the motherfucker. America. Fuck
Yeah, I kind of like that movie, and I'm sorry. I really am sorry about that. We got a little Godzilla roar for us. Oh, and then there's only two more. I use that one for Jim Jordan. And then when Jim Jordan disappoints us. All right, that's it. That's it for the new sounds. I'm going to move them over here. But we might use them. Maybe not today, but, you know, maybe. Oh, happen. I'm not sure how talented I'm going to be on being able to hit them. But anyway, hi, good morning. Hi, good morning. I am gone back to graveside. Well, yeah, no, I guess I haven't really gone back to gravesites normally either, but I wouldn't have anything against it. I'd like to go down. My mom's married in San Antonio. I wouldn't mind going back to San Antonio. I really love it there. Fully. But yeah, good morning. Welcome to Monday. Welcome to your Memorial Day Monday. Acknowledging the incredible loss that people have experienced because of wars in this world. And I hope that we will someday, won't be now, someday, maybe we won't be killing our young people in war and losing people. Maybe someday. I don't know. I used to think we were closer to that than we are now, which is unfortunate. So this Memorial Day is kind of like, you know, I watched a little bit of the West Point speech. I did not watch a lot of the West Point speech, but I did watch a little bit of it. And I just was like, gosh, I couldn't stop thinking about how it must feel to be one of the people in the audience. And, you know, just the sheer depression, if you know, like, because there's obviously a lot of people within the military who don't agree with, like, you know, don't agree with what's happening or the way we approach, you know, the world. And so I just can't imagine that there's a lot of people there going, gosh, you know, I have worked so hard for this, and now I'm about to really dedicate my life to service with the danger that I could lose my life. And I'm doing it for this administration, or I'm doing it under this administration, who, number one, doesn't appreciate the sacrifice that I'm making. And number two is actively trying to put us in danger. So, I want to talk a little bit. I'm going to read an article or two. I want to kind of also pick apart a little bit this weekend when Trump was asked about Putin and the war. Oh, butterflies, I love you. Thank you. Yeah, he did sound drugged, didn't he? He did. He sound like he's really rare. I'm going to be honest with you. My real struggle right now is just trying to figure out why the people around him. I mean, to me, I'm trying to think of it from like an organizational development thing. I'm trying to think of like it in like an OD kind of approach, which to me is like, what's the dynamic of people around a leader? And I guess de facto, he is the leader, right? They all defer to him, all this kind of stuff, which I think is, mostly kind of an act. But what is the, well, let's put it this way. I don't think that he can be a rogue, right? He's not roguing out when he does these things. Like, we, over years, earmuffsly, like the delay of 50% tariffs on all goods coming, I guess, from Europe. Unless he thinks the EU is a country, he might think the EU is an actual country. I don't know. I mean, come on now. He might just think that. But I don't know if the rogueness of these decisions or these flip-flops, I find it hard to believe that they're not okay with the people who are around him. You know what I mean? I don't think, yeah, exactly. I don't think that they could, that I don't think you can script what he's doing, right? So it would seem, and this is just my own like kink and fascination, so I apologize. This is not the most important thing in the world about how he's being reined in or not reined in or whatever. But it's fascinating to me because from an organizational development standpoint, when I think about being a manager of a team and many years that I spent doing that, I think I managed people for over 20 years. So I am fascinated by group dynamic when it comes to leadership and what happens. You think he's trying to build divisions in the EU, he'll lose. I know, I think they already know who he is. And I don't know if, I mean, he doesn't realize that, but I think they already know it's freaking you out in an Elmo when it's, no. But yeah, it's just, oh, am I still connected to a voice changer? No, I'm not, right? Okay, good. My conclusion are most around him are mentally ill and morally deficient or untrustworthy. I feel like there's got to be two segments, right? Okay, so I'm just going to play for a minute in my organizational development head. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, hold on.
Okay, can you hear me now? Oh my God, did you guys, was I doing an Elmo voice the whole time? My wake and bake tear. Am I back to normal? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. How long was that like that? Was it like that for a long time? I couldn't hear it in my mind. Oh my God. You guys. Oh my God. I didn't know. The whole time. What? Are you kidding? What? I didn't know what you meant. I couldn't hear it in my ear. It was like normal. Oh my God. Oh my God, that's terrible. I'm so sorry. God, that would be, you guys, why didn't you all go get out? I'm out. Get out of here. I did not even hear that that's what the voice is. Oops. I'm so sorry. Of course you did. Of course you didn't know. I wasn't enjoying my new toy. I couldn't hear that my voice had changed. I did want to leave. Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Oh my God, you guys, I'm so sorry. Oh my God. I had no idea. I thought I was completely like Lolo. Wow. Sorry, guys. That was like, what, 25 minutes of Elmo voice? Jesus Christ. Oh my God, that's terrible. Oh my God. Oh my God, you guys. It seems dumb for them to allow him to keep saying obviously untrue to everyone things like groceries are down and gas is $9.99. Well, see, this is my thing. Going back to the topic at hand. Sorry about that, Elmo voice. That's terrible. It's always something, isn't it? It's like always one thing or another. Yee. Okay. So what I was saying was, from an organizational development standpoint, I really think about like, why would a group around him allow it to happen? I did not tickle Elmo, and she'll never stop. Gaslighting and lies and pointing out someone else in the GOP's. Yeah. They, he's trying to manifest. Yeah, well, actually, is he, Josh? Is he doing that? Is he? I don't know. I'm not sure that he is. But, again, apologies. But I'm always looking for, like, is there a reason that the strategy of him just being let loose is working, and that's why no one steps in? Or is it that they want him to drive? I don't even know, because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think he comes up with any of this shit on his own. I think somebody says it to him 3 or 4 times. Gas up here is more expensive. Gas here is more expensive. I mean, I need to look at, I haven't looked at economic indicators usually, or in a while. Usually. In a while? God, I'm all thrown off by the Elmo voice. Oh my God. Oh, it's so gross that happened. Financial indicators. But I'm kind of like, what is the strategy? You know, like, what is yeah, I can't wrap my arms around it. And then this weekend, hi G Abbott, how are you? How are you, G? It's good to see you in here. That was an interesting throwback yesterday. That is one of the spicier ones, G. I thought that was an interesting. That was one from the vault. That's for sure. I didn't stay the whole time because I just can't. I can't handle. And not that you're doing this, but there's some normalization of some of these chuds that I can't get my arms around, and I refuse. But that's my problem. It's worth watching butterflies, especially if you've been around like you would. I'm so glad. I'm glad you're good, G. Yeah, if you take a look, it's a pretty it's some classic moments from the G Abbott archive. The professor said years ago it's like Heaven's Gate cult. I agree. I don't know, but think about this, Tom. Think about this. I'm usually ripped out of my mind when I speak to those people. It's probably a good idea. There's some pretty classic moments. But I don't think that this is like a strategy. Well, I mean, I think it is a strategy, I believe, only to the fact that the donor class, right? The donor class kind of group that's around him, the Peter Thiels, the David Sachs, you know, all those people, the PayPal mafia kind of dudes. They that group must have concerns about what's happening. And even when we read Stephen Moran's first document about the tariffs and about the strategy behind tariffs and about the strategy behind, you know, rebalancing or restructuring world trade. I still don't understand, because it doesn't look to me like that is an end game of kind of world domination, right? Or even great power, because it's kind of his approach, move fast and break things, is kind of endangering, I think, some of the wealth pots in this world. And if you have a bunch of economists and things like that, even conservative economists who are on Bloomberg and other things talking about it, they don't see that this is a good thing. They don't say that this is a great strategy and that there's some big end game that he's got planned, So how does the donor class not pay attention to people like Jamie Dimon, who's part of them, by the way? Jamie Dimon, who's the head of JP Morgan, like, he's one of those people. I just don't know what he thinks. And then this weekend, when he started talking about Putin, and like, Putin needs to stop doing this, that, and the other thing, or whatever it was he said. What did he say? Putin's gone absolutely crazy. That's the other part. It's like, well, wait a minute, though. So what is his relationship to Putin? And is that KFAB? Because I don't think he's that good at KFAB. Okay, I don't think Dump can act. I don't think Dump can act. Oh, okay. Lee says, wait, now you can comment. Oh, is it because you couldn't stand the Elmo voice? I think their goal is to get JD in the Oval. Let Dump take himself down by just letting him loose. I think that's absolutely makes sense to me. Here's the other thing that would make sense to me. Yes, exactly. Lee, this is what, bingo. Well, yeah, JD Vance is actually a real, he is a protege of Peter Thiel. He is absolutely doing the bidding of the donor class. So JD Vance is the donor class's person in the White House, right? Oh, you were wearing dish gloves. So JD Vance he's not just an asshole. He's a very particular asshole, and is, to me, more dangerous than a Trump, like, frankly. Because he tries to act like he's normal, but he's really not normal. He's actually quite motherfucking crazy. Yes, the market manipulation for this whole, like, scenario that we've been going through, that is absolutely market manipulation. There's a bunch of people making a bunch of fucking money, during this time. So that chaos is working for a big group of the donor class. That might be why they don't care. The other reason I don't think they care is that, and this is to Lee's point, it's pretty clear to me through the business deals with Qatar, with the Saudis, with the UAE, all of that stuff that's been happening, all of that investment, all of the reshoring of manufacturing push really hinges. When you listen to this administration, all of their plans really hinge on AI. Some of them because they want to build all the AI and own that AI structure. Elmo. Who else? Sam Altman, right? The head of OpenAI, credibly accused of abusing his sister when they were children, but whatever. But hey, money. And so I think the end game really is the overhaul of the global economy based on AI, and certainly in the in the technate known as America. I think the goal is as much access to minerals and raw materials that you can muster, water, etc. The commitment from companies to reshore, but based on the ability of this administration to make it easy for them to use AI as part of their manufacturing. Keep in mind, he said that he'll be, what was it? Oh shoot, I just lost it. Yes, massive AI farming site being built in Abilene. Yeah, Texas is getting all kinds of shit done to it, thanks to Elon and this whole stupidity. So I think I could see a world where the donor class, just to give them a name, so I don't have to name them individually, but the donor class I could see would be fine to sit back and look at this, because at the end of the day, the goal is to get access to as much of the world's oh my God, as much of the world's resources as humanly possible. And that will be the way that I think they advance themselves. And that's why right now the human rights damage, rolling back civil rights, all that kind of stuff, that's all fine to them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to the Silicon Valley class or any people about the lack of, because again, their money is on automation. And I don't know. It's a real fucked end game. And of course, the timing on this fucking tax thing, which I'm really interested to see what the Senate does with the tax, with the big bullshit bill this week. So we'll have to be listening for that. But the Senate is going to tackle that. And of course, they bluster and they've said, oh yeah, we're going to make some major changes to it. Bullshit. If you look at that bill, there's no way you can change enough of it to not make it the worst bill in American history. Period. The worst policies. That's it. You would have to throw out the entire bill and start again. Because from rolling back environmental protections to cutting off SNAP benefits for hungry children and families, to cutting Job Corps so that teens don't have access to summer work programs and other things that happen in their states, shifting the burden of a lot of the Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera, to the states, but not funding them. Trump is pissed about the mineral rights deal with Greenland. Oh boy, is he mad about that. You're right, G. God, he's fucking pissed about that. And I'm going to tell you right now, Ursula, my girl crush, Ursula von der Leyen, I fucking love that bitch. And she gives Trump right what she smacks him right in the kisser. I love that woman. So I really, I really think she's a good representative for the EU. So yeah, I kind of go, what? Like I don't think the human cost is of any consequence when it gets to a certain level of the donor class, or any level, I guess. But I think that's where we're at. Yeah, Rutte. That's right, Jane. Oh yeah, Ursula Rutte. Oh my God, love. There you go. I'm in. If she would go on a date with me, I would do it. No, she's really amazing. Hot, sexy, smart. She's a badass. She stands up. Time to move this party to the patio. Fuck yeah, Lee, let's do it. Oh, that's right. You finally get a day off. Yeah, and still talk about tariffs. Oops. Wait. There we go. So intelligent. She's so intelligent. God, if you haven't seen Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the EU, or the economic counselor or something, I don't know what she is. I can't remember now. Anyway, so she's amazing. But yeah, what was the other thing that was kind of on my mind in terms of paradox? I can't remember. It'll come back to me. So yeah, so that's where we are. I don't know. It's funny though, it's 50% tariff Greenland deal. Yeah, exactly, Tom. That's why he said the 50%. And I'm sorry. and maybe there's reporting on this that will correct me. What I believe is that he said that Ursula called him this weekend and said, "Hey, yo, Donnie, could we pen those, 50% tariffs until July 9th?" I am absolutely, I would eat my hat if that story were actually true. She, she, uh, she absolutely, yeah, I would just eat my hat. There's no way that she called him up and said, "Oh yeah, could you just delay them a month?" Bullshit. That's bullshit. And I fucking hate him. And I fucking hate that people that we didn't in the beginning and now even more just shout him down. Like there was never a shouting down of the Republican Party. And if Hakeem Jeffries calls them extreme MAGA Republicans one more time, I'm gonna poop a kitten. I can't stand it. G says, Lee, this is what I think could happen with JD Vance. Let Vance run point, appear moderate, win hearts in the Rust Belt, and then just before 2028, step aside. The real heir enters. Don Jr. Oh, see, I don't know. Because I think, first of all, JD Vance is not moderate. There's nothing moderate about JD Vance. It could be that he could fool some people who aren't paying attention. So to that point, his kind of, like whatever he calls it down home or kind of like thing. I don't think that's actually what it is. It's kind of creepy, but whatever. That's fine. But yeah, definitely, I think JD Vance is somewhat normalizing the political tenor, I guess. Although he's turned out to be just as much of an asshole as. No, you don't have a vivid imagination. You are absolutely on point, G. Absolutely on point. And yeah, I could see them doing that. I definitely could see them doing that because that keeps them out in the accountability seat, right? And it's very important for the Trump family to maintain a hold over the accountability outcome because they have a lot to account for. And so I have a feeling that that's a very good point, that keeping the Trumps in line and having that, that figurehead. And certainly Junior is someone that they could just mold, like he'll do whatever the fuck they want him to do. Oh my God. He's the guy that sniffs coke and tells Hans that he's gonna, he's gonna fix Die Hard remember the Die Hard guy, the guy I love in Die Hard, the guy that's such a jerk. And he's like, "Yeah, Hans, booby." That's who Don Jr. is. That's to me who Don Jr. is. And that he would, I think he would, you're definitely right. I could see them swapping him in because he's a great patsy for that. So what I don't really understand is Putin being shut out of anything? Like, I'm not quite sure I understand what the dynamic is there right now. I'm not totally sure about that. But I guess, it could be that there's some, I don't know. I feel like that doesn't make any sense to me, though. Because Dump was already willing to concede parts of Ukraine to Russia. So it's not like, yeah, Putin's probably being, that's the thing. I think probably there is got to be some. Well, he's really big friends with Prince MBS, whatever that guy is, or whatever. What's his name? I can't remember. The prince, the younger one in Saudi Arabia. Putin's really big buddies with him. Okay. So I feel like that could be, that definitely could be. Cause to me, it's the Saudis and it's UAE and Qatar. Those to me are some of the real power players because they just did this big thing where their investment into the AI infrastructure in this country is going to be massive. And, it seems like the United States could become the AI factory, if you will, the AI factory for the world. and then the minerals pour in. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like that's, a conceivable, desirable outcome for these bullshit asshole guys. Yeah, MBS and Putin are they're biffles for sure. Konstantin Samolov inside. Oh yeah. Thinks there's a war plot. I mean, okay, maybe. I don't know. I mean, after so many years, it's hard to believe that stuff would actually happen. But yeah, maybe. I don't know. I certainly don't have any idea. Vance will have to dumb it down more to capture Mag, but I think he is. Max, watch him, listen to him. He is. He's not dumb. It's not even that he's dumbing it down. He just talks like an asshole. That's his charm within the MAGA community. I believe that. I believe that he started off and people were like, "Oh, well, but is he one of those fancy guys?" Well, no, he's not a fancy guy, and he'll keep pushing that down your throat that he's not a fancy guy. And now he's just a complete, like, he can be a carbon copy of Dump when he wants to be, and they fucking love it. So I think he is actually winning the hearts and minds of MAGA. I think JD really he knows how to act. I mean, he became a Catholic pretty fast for Peter Thiel, or whatever you would call that form of Catholicism. It's not really Catholic, but you know what I mean. So I think that would actually be that would make sense to me. Neil said, when he says such and such called me, that means such and such didn't call me. That's right. There's no way that Ursula called him. There's just no way. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't believe it. They don't have hearts and minds. You're so right, Josh. There is such an emphasis on dehumanization and of breaking people. Yeah, still too articulate. Well, yeah. He's got to play both sides. But he's actually, I mean, I don't know. I'm not impressed because I can't stand the guy, but he definitely has become more magnified in his approach, in his words. Trump publicly blusters about tariffs and toughness. Tech back channels open. Russia watches from the sidelines. The man who once basked in Trump's praise becomes a footnote. Irrelevance is Trump's weapon. Yeah, that's true. He definitely tries to make that happen. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about the Saudi-Russia connection that really kind of keeps me from believing that Putin is on the outs. There's something that just doesn't sit right. It might be because he's wasted a ton of money and resources in his own country for his Peter the Great visions of a united Russia. But yeah, he's definitely an opportunist. But yeah, so it's an interest. I mean, we'll find out, I guess, in real time. God damn it. But you know what? She laughed too much. Right? She laughed too much. By the way, I can't stand her, never could. But I was certainly willing to vote for a Democratic administration. So, come on now. This was the alternative we had to have in order to appreciate what we had. That you don't know what you've got till it's gone. They paved paradise, put up a gulag spot. Ooh la 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 la. Yeah, fuck that. Pam Bondi is on the outs, I notice. She's not doing a very good job on the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. Okay, they're still bitching about that. Oh, boy, are they mad. Ooh, MAGA is so mad. They have not gotten their Jeffrey Epstein moment, and it's just killing them. And you want to know why they aren't getting their Jeffrey Epstein moment? I'll tell you, chuds who are listening in and hate watching. There might be one or two of you. Because, wait, what? What was I saying? Now I can't remember. I can't even remember. I started thinking about something else and then my mind went somewhere else. I know. Well, money does great things. Money and power. Money, power, and pussy. Come on now. That's what it is, Max. I can't remember. Oh, Epstein. Right. They don't want, they can't tell you about the Epstein files because their man is all over them. And thank you, God, man, my fucking brain. My brain's on vacation. The Saudis know Russia is weakening. They'll use Trump to solidify their regional dominance, even if it means smiling at Putin while holding a knife behind his back. Well, I mean, I definitely think there's no, just because someone is BFFs with someone, it's from a business standpoint. It's not personal. So yeah, they probably do see Russia on the decline, but Russia's a massive land area and massive resources. So he's important from that standpoint. Otherwise, they would have done a regime change a long time ago. So clearly, he's got something in his mind. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, but there's I don't think I think dump is obviously really helpful. But see, this is where I kind of keep going then and say, well, but it's not just Trump, right? Like they have to deal with someone other than Trump. And the eerily quiet from Susie Wiles, from David Sachs, from Peter Thiel is kind of crazy to me. Like that's the part that scares me the most. The part that scares me the most is the fact that the donors and the puppet master kind of guys, they're not saying anything. I just feel that's really weird. There's something really weird. I don't know. So I'm not sure. But I'll tell you, I think Pam Bondi, boy, she better fucking start delivering or MAGA's going to revolt. Doesn't matter how much Amazon hair she puts in. She's not going to last. Yeah. So anyway, it's a fascinating mixed up world. And here we are just living in it. Let's see. I actually have some overdue things for us to read. Hold on. I want to do one thing. Ooh, 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 ooh. Wow. Okay, here we go. La 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 la. All right, it's taking a minute to load. I'm convinced Dump has always been just yeah, he is. He's not the idea man. No. He's the one who's willing to do all the shit. And he has a very good reason to do it. Because he has what the hell's going on? Okay, wait. Why is that doing that? Hold on. I'm gonna minimize you. Okay. House of Cards, yeah. No, House of Cards is so great. Oh my god, it's so good. No, you absolutely are right. I mean, the thing is yeah, you're right, G. It's just I don't know. Let's see. It's a mixed up muddle. Yeah, except for Lola. That's right. It's a mixed up, muddled up, shook up world, except for Lola. Yeah, but you know what the funny thing is? She spent a half an hour talking in a fucking Elmo voice. Okay? Laughing Lola. Oh my God, I remember that. Yeah, Chia head. That's right, Josh. Trump is the Chia head of this administration. But yeah, he's the guy who has to stay out of prison. Okay? He's got a big incentive to hold on to power because he's got to stay out of prison. And his sons also have to stay out of prison. So they need this. They need the presidency in order to keep themselves out of harm's way. So there's that one thing. That one I'm pretty sure about. Like that one seems like, okay, that makes a ton of sense to me. Which also makes sense as to why people like David Sachs and Elmo and Peter Thiel and, you know, Sam Altman and all these guys would use him, because he has got to do what he has to stay in power. My take on the files: access is currency, exploitation is institutional, and accountability is optional if you're rich enough. Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, and the files, I think probably say what they can't whitewash. They can't clean up those files, right? They have to bank on the fact that people will move on. That's what I think Pam Bondi, et cetera, Cash. I think they're banking on the fact that people will move on. And unfortunately, some of these Magites just won't move on for them. But, they'll suppress it. They'll suppress it enough. And it'll, they're trying with all the JFK stuff, and, they're trying, but wait, look at these files, and look at this file, and look at that file. And, so I don't know. This time next week, I'll be in Toronto at a Canadian Trade Compliance Conference, my annual therapy session with people who do what I do. Yes. And you know what? It was always very calming to be with the compliance people. And I worked in brokerage, and there, and the compliance people were always like, well, but this is how you're supposed to do it. And I was like, I'm sorry. They said this is how we're supposed to do it. So I have to listen to my compliance people. Deal and his bunch also have an incentive to keep Trump out of jail. Trump is transactional. He'll spill the details on anything to stay out of prison, and that would implicate the donor class. That's a really good point, Neil. That's a really good point. I'm sure he's got all kinds of shit on people. I mean, let's not get it twisted. Craig Unger, who wrote wonderful books about Trump and his Russian connections and his compromat, from the 80s on, is a really good resource, I think, for that. Lee, I thought that event was happening in Montreal. Enjoy Toronto. Oh, no meetup for Neil and Lee. Damn it. All right, let's see. Let me read this. Speaking of this week and the fucking bullshit bill, the big bullshit bill. Let's see. I have an article to read to you this morning as you have your morning coffee. Yes. Hold on. I got to. Oops. One from the archives. Let's see. Oops. Boop. Boop. Here we go. I don't know who sent this to me. I don't know if this was one of you guys pointed this article out, I'm sure, or perhaps Gal sent it to me. Lee has enough stress in her life without dealing with me. Oh, no way. I say we all meet in Montreal. I want to go to old Montreal and hang out in the summertime. I have such great memories of going to old Montreal in the summertime, and it's so hot out that you just sit in one of the little side cafes. Oh, I love that so much. I would do that. We should do that. All right. My nose itches. I'm going to have a fight or kiss a fool. Okay. Ugh. I'm coming to Montreal. Woo, 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 woo. Tax wealth, not work. That's right. I mean, you know what? We're a little far away from that, Tom. You're so welcome. Gee, thank you for coming. I'm glad you stopped by. Thank you for coming, G. I hope you're well. Miss you. But I'm glad to see you. Thanks for being a good sport when I had to dip out last night. I just can't take those people. The fact that they act like they're accepted in polite society drives me insane. So that's a me thing. All right. Okay. So let's see. Oops. Coming apart here. Woo. Republicans snuck a provision into their mega bill that would let Trump defy the courts. Oh my God. What? Are you kidding? Hold on. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Here we go. All right. This is from May 24th. This is an archive from a Slate article. This definitely came from Gal. This is an article from Slate from May 24th. And there's Mike's little Johnson. All right, here we go. Sit back and relax. Let Mama read to you. I miss you too. I'm glad you'll be back. Thanks, G. I really appreciate that. This week saw yet another federal judge run out of patience when the Trump administration attempted to deport a group of migrants to the South Sudan. In express violation of a court order prohibiting... They weren't from the Sudan, by the way. In express violation of a court order prohibiting them from doing so without notice and an opportunity to contest their removal. You know, due process, kind of what this country is built on. At a series of hearings, Judge Brian Murphy furiously rebuked the administration for ignoring his instructions, evading his questions, and generally conducting immigration policy as though it is the world's biggest game of whack-a-mole. Murphy also raised the prospect of holding officials in contempt for defying his orders. Less than a day after he did so, however, House Republicans passed a bill that would gut federal judges' authority to enforce contempt orders, an obvious effort to stop the judiciary from punishing administration officials who disobey the courts. This is an interview, so we're going to kind of read it in such. A bonus episode of Amicus. Dahlia Lithwick and Mark Joseph Stern discuss the government's latest flouting of a court order as well as the GOP's effort to insulate defiant officials from consequence. A preview of their conversation below has been edited. Dahlia, some of the most stunning news of the week involved this hearing in a federal court about deportation to South Sudan. There were so many layers, but it seems to include the overt violation of a court order, an insane performance by Trump's Justice Department, and the renditioning of people to a country that is deemed too dangerous for Americans to travel to. What exactly did the Trump administration try to do this week? Mark? The Trump administration tried to deport about a half a dozen immigrants to South Sudan, a country so riven by a violent civil war that the U.S. government has warned travelers not to even step foot there. They were from Asia, Tom? Sure thing. Yeah, you guys. Oh my God. I want to go to Montreal. I want to play. And none of these individuals were even from South Sudan. It was a so-called third country, not their country of origin. The federal government said, "We know it's too dangerous for American travelers, but it's not too dangerous to serve as our dumping ground for immigrants who we don't want in America anymore." And immigration officials reportedly gave these immigrants less than 24 hours notice before putting them on a plane headed to Africa. The problem here is that Judge Brian Murphy, a Joe Biden appointee, has already issued an injunction prohibiting the government from expelling anybody to a third country without giving them a meaningful opportunity to object on the grounds that they may face torture or persecution. But the government ignored that order and put these migrants on a plane to South Sudan, forcing their lawyers to rush to court and plead with Murphy to enforce his injunction while their clients were already in the air to Africa. And it sounds like Judge Murphy was not here for it. He was willing to say the quiet parts out loud about what was going on here without hesitating to call out the DOJ. Right. Murphy held an emergency hearing and ordered the government to actually abide by his injunction, in part by maintaining custody over the men who were on the plane rather than dumping them in South Sudan and turning around. That was a smart move, since we now know the government's position is that once individuals have been dumped off in a third country, they are outside U.S. custody and there's nothing the United States can do to get them back. Murphy also clarified that his injunction requires the government to give individuals at least 10 days' notice to raise objections to their deportations to third countries. During this hearing, Justice Department lawyers actually argued that 24 hours was enough notice to comply with due process before sending immigrants to a war-torn country that they've never set foot in. That was a rather brazen and brassy claim for Justice Department lawyers to make less than 1 week after the Supreme Court held that 24 hours notice was not nearly enough time to afford Venezuelan migrants who face deportation to El Salvador. Judge Murphy also speculated that immigration officials had acted with criminal contempt in defying his order. He has not taken any action to hold them in contempt yet, but those proceedings seem to be down the road. During the hearing, Joshua Freeman quoted Judge Murphy saying that the government believes it had complied with his orders because it didn't hear the immigrants yelling at their jailers saying they're afraid of going to South Sudan. I guess that's the only signal the DOJ would have accepted, that they don't want to be renditioned there. There's now the usual fog of speculation about whether Judge Murphy will actually hold anyone in contempt. But that leads us to something that Republicans smuggled into their crappy, big, midnight bill, a provision that would prevent judges enforcing contempt orders that seem aimed straight at the heart of these district courts that are considering contempt against Trump officials. Is this a real threat or just an attempt to chill district courts from doing their job? Answer: it is a huge threat. This provision, if enacted into law, would prevent courts from enforcing contempt orders when the courts did not force the plaintiffs to post bond. Okay, I'm going to read that again. This provision, if enacted into law, would prevent courts from enforcing contempt orders when the courts did not force the plaintiffs to post bond. But as Erwin Chemerinsky, Samuel Bray, and other experts have explained, courts do not traditionally require plaintiffs to post bond when they're suing the government, especially over violations of civil rights and constitutional law. There is a long-standing tradition that most federal courts don't force plaintiffs to post bond in those cases. And so, right now, there are thousands of injunctions that would be rendered totally unenforceable if this provision passes into law. Okay, right now, there are thousands of injunctions that would be rendered totally unenforceable if this provision passes into law. I'm telling you, there is so much in this big bullshit bill that must be stopped. It is so bad. Because, you know, all of the distraction, all of the noise is to hide the actual codification and codifying of these draconian rollbacks of our rights in this country. And oh man, they just really fucking nailed it. They nailed how to do this. Russ Vogt, OMB, all these guys. First America Legal, all these people, all these institutions. All of these institutions of mass destruction help contribute to the plans to roll back in detail environmental protections, regulations, and these more serious, well, I guess serious in terms of human and civil rights. It's just, it's overwhelming. I think by design, but it's overwhelming. And it's going to catch people off guard. Wow. Yeah. Max says South Sudan has like 7 million people facing starvation and experiencing a severe cholera outbreak. Yeah, they overlaid a global map on a Chutes and Ladders board game. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's a big design here. You know, there's a big intention to really disappear people that are inconvenient and to also just gut the courts. Well, there's more. I think there's more to this than even Project 2025. I feel like there were tactical plans. Well, of course there are tactical plans, but I feel like there are very detailed tactical plans that attack some of these pieces, you know, that roll back. And the EOs are just the distraction point, right? The EOs were the distraction. The EOs actually were a heads up. The EOs were a heads up to us. Hey, this is coming. Because the next step is they put it in a fucking law. Or they remove the law that did whatever it is we're trying to destroy. And that's why this big, beautiful bill is such a fucking problem. Because it's a big bullshit bill full of these things that roll back everything that is good about this country, frankly. And they are disproportionately injunctions against the federal government prohibiting violations of civil rights and constitutional liberties. If this provision passes into law, then none of these could be enforced. because in none of these cases did the district court require the plaintiffs to post bond. Wow. It's like loopholes on steroids. That would mean Judge James Boasberg could not enforce a contempt order against the government. It would mean that Judge Paula Zinnes, who is overseeing the Abrego Garcia case, could not enforce a contempt order. It would mean that Judge Murphy in this very case could not enforce contempt against officials who defied him. It would mean that basically all of the federal judges who have ruled against the Trump administration so far would not be able to enforce contempt orders if the government defies their injunctions because they did not require the plaintiffs to post bond. Now, here's the weird thing. Oh my God, my nose. The courts could get around this by just directing plaintiffs to post some normal bond, maybe even $1, but there is no way for the courts to go back in time and do that in many of these cases, these other cases. And this provision applies to a bunch of long-standing injunctions that have been in effect for years. Yes, absolutely. Butterflies, you are 110% correct. Project 2025 is the outlay, kind of the formal presentation of this. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Ooh, the pool heater. Whoop, whoop. I'm liking that. Summer girl. And these are ongoing permanent injunctions. And this provision applies to a bunch of long-standing injunctions that have been in effect for years, including desegregation orders in the South. These are ongoing permanent injunctions that the government, if this provision passes, could simply defy. And then, if a court tries to hold officials in contempt, the government could say, too bad, the plaintiffs didn't post bond, so we get out of contempt for free. This is a recipe to let government officials get away with defying many, many injunctions, not just those against Trump. Mark, given how squirrely this all sounds, what are the chances of it passing into law? The problem for Republicans is that this provision has been smuggled into the reconciliation bill, and a Democratic aide to the Senate Judiciary Committee has told me that Democrats are planning to challenge it as a violation of the Byrd Rule, meaning it can't be passed by a simple majority. It must be subject to the filibuster. And I think they'll convince the Senate parliamentarian that it must be stripped out because it has no clear impact on the budget. So that's the note of optimism. The note of pessimism, though, is that Senate Republicans just overruled the Senate parliamentarian this past week to repeal California's vehicle emission standards. It is certainly not inconceivable that they would overrule the parliamentarian again now that they've crossed this Rubicon to enact any part of the reconciliation bill with a simple majority. They've already gone nuclear to kill clean air standards, so why not do it to hobble federal courts ruling against Trump too? Yeah. Boop. Bad. That's right. Bill 5. Oh, you guys have something going on in Canada along those lines, Badge? Hold on, I gotta smoke some weed now before we go on to the next. It's time to smoke some weed. It's really, it's overwhelming by design, I guess. I don't know. Isn't it crazy? How do we get here? How did we get here? Oh, one thing that it made me think of when they talked about overturning permanent injunctions, such as desegregating schools, etc. You guys remember when we watched the documentary Bad Faith? Which I think we need to watch that again. I think we should watch that again. But Bad Faith had a really good explanation to me as someone who's not as deep a student of history as I should be. But it really opened my eyes about the Council for National Policy and Paul Weyrich, if you recall that name, and his championing of these types of rollbacks, and the whole origins of the anti-abortion, the pro-life hard-on that they all have, and that pro-life and those kinds of things are really tied into segregation and really tied into the deep racism that the conservative mind is really kind of like stuck on. So it was really, I really feel like I need to watch that movie again just to kind of get a refresher, because this really has to do with racism. This really has to do with white supremacy and or the lack thereof. The lack of white supremacy. Anyway, I don't know. All right, let me see if I actually have some videos too, so you don't have to listen to my stupid voice all the time. It's the Canadian and Doug Ford. Is it Doug Ford's? Maybe judges should throw DOJ lawyers into jail for this is the thing. I think that, first of all, it seems to me that the courts are actually doing a pretty good job of like standing up to this, but they are very limited, I think, in what they can do, right? And that's scary. I mean, it's scary on one hand, and it's, of course, part of the design on the other is that no one thing is powerful. But oh man, what an assault! What an assault! Little skinny joints, stupid skinny joints. No, I'm just kidding. They're fine. Okay. Let me find, see what happened. What happened? Closing remarks by Mark Rutte. Jane, Mark Rutte is speaking.
Historical reasons. The United States realizes that to stay safe, they need
I
a
might have
secure
to
Atlantic,
turn this back.
they need a secure Arctic, and they need a secure Europe. That is of a vital, direct interest to the defense and security of this country long term. So that's why we work together. Of course, there was a mistake.
I'm going back. I want to hear him, and I know Jane loves Mark Rutte.
To delay. Let's act. Let's act together. Thank you for your attention.
This is the closing remarks by Mark Rutte at the NATO conference in Dayton.
Thank you for your remarks, and to assure you that the NATO Parliamentary Assembly remains fully squarely behind supporting Ukraine for a safe, long-lasting and just peace. Thank you.
Is that Dayton, Ohio? That's not Dayton, Ohio, right? He would love you. Yeah.
Okay, dear colleagues, it's now time to welcome the NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte.
Rutte. Wait.
Thank you, Marcos.
Hold on. Wait, we got to play Mark's entrance music. This is for you, Jane. This is Mark's entrance music. Yeah. It's time now. Put your hands together for the NATO General Secretary. Yeah. He's gonna give you democracy. Yeah. It's good. Let's hear it. Rutte. I love that. I'm so happy about that song.
And also, thank you, Andriy, for your incredible leadership in Ukraine. And I think it was very important to have that address today to this important gathering. And thank you to Mike Turner and the whole US team for the warm welcome to Dayton. First, I want to pay tribute to Jerry Connolly. He was a powerful advocate for our great alliance, a champion of the transatlantic bond, and a fearless defender of the democratic values we hold dear. We met a couple of times first when I was Prime Minister of the Netherlands, and then twice in my present role. And I have the best of memories of these encounters. And I can tell you, also in private, he could be very forceful. Let us honor his memory by continuing to stand strong and united in NATO. Despite these sad circumstances, it is a pleasure to join you this session of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly and to celebrate your 70th anniversary, 70th, 70. The MPA promotes peace, security and democracy, strengthens transatlantic cooperation and builds understanding about our great alliance. You reinforce the bond between NATO and our democratic societies. You have my admiration and deepest thanks. I'm so pleased that we are meeting in Dayton, a great city in the great state of Ohio.
Thank you, Lee. Dayton Accords,
about
1995.
The Dayton Dutch Lions, a local football team, or I suppose you in the United States would say soccer. The Dutch philosophy for the beautiful game is all about strategic thinking, adaptability, and strong teamwork. Today, I want to share with you how we are going to build a better NATO. At the summit in The Hague next month, Allied leaders will take decisions to make NATO a stronger, fairer and more lethal alliance. Because we live in a more dangerous world, and this is a critical moment for our security, with multiple threats and challenges. There is Russia's brutal war against Ukraine, the threat of terrorism, intense global competition, and flashpoints around the world, from the Middle East to Asia. Russia has teamed up with China, North Korea and Iran. They are expanding their militaries and their capabilities. They are preparing for long-term confrontation. I'm struck by the speech Winston Churchill made in the House of Commons in 1936, when he asked the question, will there be time to put our defenses in order? Will there be time to make these necessary efforts? Or will the awful words, too late, be recorded? Peace fails when there's complacency, when threats go unanswered, and when preparations are put off. We must take action now and build up our defenses. To delay is dangerous. To make NATO stronger, we must increase defense spending. That underpins everything. Allies will have to invest much more to meet new capability targets, which NATO defense ministers will agree in Brussels next week. We need more resources, forces and capabilities so that we are prepared to face any threat and to implement our collective defense plans.
Please like and share the broadcast. Thank you.
Most allies, if not all, are due to reach the initial aim of spending 2% of GDP on defense this year. And many have already announced plans to go much further.
That was kind of fast, actually, when you think about it.
The 2% pledge, agreed way back in 2014,
just
doesn't cut it anymore. So, in 2025, we are finalizing a plan to dramatically increase defense spending across the alliance. This plan will mean more money for our
it's an
core
arms
military
race, everybody.
requirements,
No
hard
new
defense,
wars, but tons of arm
and
races.
more money for defense-related
and new
investments,
wars, never mind.
including infrastructure and resilience. I'm working closely with Allied leaders as we prepare for the formal decisions at the summit in The Hague. As parliamentarians, I need your help to make the case for higher defense spending with the public and to encourage your governments to keep up with their commitments. And I know the debates about investing more in defense will be difficult in some parliaments. And each of you will have an important role in building support to get budgets approved. So I need, and NATO needs, your support. As well as more defense spending, we need more defense production. NATO's aim is to enhance and expand the industrial base right across the alliance. We are committed to increasing defense production, fostering innovation, and removing barriers to cooperation. The summit in The Hague will send a clear demand signal to industry.
It's so embarrassing.
And we need industry to meet our ambition. Increased defense production is not just good for our security. It is good for our economies too. And I also expect allies will spend more and better together on critical capabilities.
All right, I'm interrupting him for a minute, and I adore him. But let me tell you this. Let me tell you where we found ourselves. Back in the 1970s, or no, actually 80s. 70s and 80s. I got involved locally when I was a kid. But my dad brought me to a meeting, actually, of Physicians for Social Responsibility. Do you remember that group, Physicians for Social Responsibility? Anybody remember that? So my dad brought me to a meeting where they talked about nuclear disarmament. And I got so impassioned about that I just took it on as my own, little fight. And I would make speeches at school and stuff like that about nuclear disarmament and all that kind of stuff. But Physicians for Social Responsibility was a group probably in the 70s. I don't know when they started, but that was where I learned a lot about the nuclear arms race and stuff when I was younger. And it just really became, like an unbelievable existential crisis. And for me, and so whatever, and now I feel like we're getting back to that time, right? Like, I feel like we're getting back to that point in time where we are finding ourselves where he's asking countries to spend more on defense, right, as part of their NATO commitment, et cetera, blah, 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 blah. And that inevitably takes money away, as we're seeing in the UK, et cetera. They're experiencing it pretty loudly, that it takes money away from social programs, right? And so now we find ourselves with this fucking the administration who's like, oh, we're not going to get any, forever wars, which, there's a lot of really dedicated peace activists, and even the incels, are like, at least they get that part right, where they don't want new wars. They don't know how to stop wars, but the incels will certainly complain that we don't want any new forever wars, right? So they kind of wake up about that. But we now find ourselves, because of this administration, 100% because of this administration. I'm going to say that again, 100% because of this administration. That right now, in the world, you will see an increase in defense funding and proliferation of armaments, like probably not since the 70s, I guess. I don't know. That would probably be a big statement, but whatever. And less, which means that there would be less spending on other things that, make life better for people. Not to mention that this administration, who claims, we don't want to get in any wars or anything, which is a bunch of bullshit, is bombing the fuck out of Yemen. So yeah, the fighting force in Yemen, the Houthis, of course, are, probably being paid by other governments, and they'll do what they need to do. But I'm just saying, we are creating greater conflict in this world than we are solving. So that too was a boondoggle. There's no avoidance of war with this administration. There's only an embrace of the expense and the taking away of resources from actual human rights and programming. kind of crazy. I mean, I just have to, I really do kind of think about what it must have been like to be in pre-World War II Germany or Europe. And just kind of when you see this stuff building up and you see we build towards this greater conflict. Yeah, I'm sick of like, turning around and like, oh, that thing I didn't think was ever going to happen again. Well, here it is. That's crazy. Yeah, there have been protests against NATO. I mean, it's a war force. I mean, so there's a lot of reasons, I think. Jane, maybe some NATO, lots of protests against activity in the Middle East, Rwanda, and human rights abuses or issues. Big audience of leaders. Yeah, absolutely. G20, all those things. Makes sense.
For our armed forces. NATO must become stronger, fairer, and more lethal. To make NATO fairer, we will rebalance the burden of our security, with all allies contributing their fair share. We all benefit enormously from the protection our transatlantic alliance provides. But it is vital that every member of this alliance is pulling their weight.
Trade is what keeps peace. Trade is what keeps peace.
And I'm encouraged to see Europe and Canada stepping up with more defense spending. A strong transatlantic alliance is good for Europe and good for the United States. Becoming more lethal means strengthening our deterrence and defense posture and providing our militaries with what they need to keep us safe, so that no potential aggressor has any doubt about our resolve. Rest assured, we will always be a defensive alliance. But to protect our way of life, we will always do whatever it takes to prevent any aggression against us. And if anyone dares to attack us, our resolve will be absolute. To preserve peace, we must prepare for war. Let us not ignore the lessons of history. Dayton knows that peace can prevail. It was here in 1995 that the brutal Bosnian War was brought to an end. The Dayton Agreement laid the foundation for peace in Bosnia and Herzegovina. NATO has supported peace and stability there and right across the Western Balkans for 30 years. Our commitment remains just as strong today. But above all, it is the people and politicians of Bosnia and Herzegovina and throughout the region that must deliver progress. The Western Balkans has shown that peace is possible. But today, Europe is not at peace.
Hi, Anita.
Russia has brought war back to Europe. Its aggression against Ukraine must stop, and it must stop now. I completely condemn Russia's indiscriminate attacks against innocent civilians over the last 48 hours. We fully support President Trump's urgent efforts to stop the fighting. We need a just and lasting peace. This is a priority that we all share. Thank you. NATO will continue our long-term support to Ukraine. And this is not about prolonging the war. It is about ensuring Ukraine can defend itself now and prevent any future aggression. NATO's command in Germany is leading the coordination of security assistance and training for Ukraine, delivering critical aid daily and helping build its future force. And our new center in Poland is helping us all learn the lessons from the war. So far, allies pledged more than 20 billion euros in additional security assistance for Ukraine this year. And through the Coalition of the Willing, led by the United Kingdom and France.
Hey.
NATO allies have
You
shown
might need a
they are
tour
ready,
guide,
willing and
Jane.
able to take more responsibility to help secure peace when the time comes. NATO has stood with Ukraine from the beginning. We stand with Ukraine today, and we will stand with Ukraine throughout the challenges ahead. We know that even when the war against Ukraine ends, the threats we face will persist. Our adversaries will still try to dominate and divide us. They will fail because of the unbreakable transatlantic bond, North America and Europe standing together to secure peace through strength. A stronger, fairer and more lethal alliance is how we stay safe in a more dangerous world. 1 billion people on both sides of the Atlantic are counting on us. Let us rise to the challenge and stand stronger together in NATO.
Yeah, he probably works really hard.
Thank you.
He needs a shoulder rub.
Thank you.
Maybe he has a hot date with Ursula von der Leyen. Hey, stop it. She's fine. Ursula. Such a sexy name.
We now come to questions. Thank you for being here with us and take some time. I must warn you that we already have a large number of questions, several dozens of them. It is highly unlikely that we will be able to go through all of them, but we'll do our best. I will set a 1 minute time limit for questions. I will ask you to respect this limit so that we can get more questions. And we will follow our usual procedure. We will join groups of 3 questions, and we will start immediately with the question for Michael Turner, the head of the American delegation. Please, Mike, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Secretary General, for being here. It's important that you interface with the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. The legislative function is important as we look to NATO's policies. They have to be adopted, both budgets and policies in the legislature. So thank you for honoring us by being here. You've recently made a statement about Russia's efforts to put a nuclear anti-satellite weapon into space. I believe that weapon should never be permitted to go into space. This is, I think, the Cuban Missile Crisis in space. Your bringing attention to it is incredibly important. It would destabilize, I think, all of our efforts, both militarily and commercial satellites in space. It would, if it was detonated, wipe out low Earth orbit, perhaps up to a year. It has been testified before the U.S. Congress. Thank you for bringing the attention to that. I think collectively as an alliance we need to make this a priority. I'd love your additional thoughts on that.
Now, please, Miko Savola, Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. And thank you for your leadership. Right now, NATO and particularly its European pillar is addressing the right priorities. We must strengthen Ukraine's and Europe's defense, ramp up our defense industry and train more troops. We must spend more on defense and take greater responsibility for our own security. We must also correct the past mistakes. That's why Finland is withdrawing from the Ottawa Convention, and we have heard similar voices from Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania and Poland. In a wartime situation, we must have every tool available to stop an enemy coming from the east. But my question to you, Mr. Secretary General, concerns the reinforcement of the NATO's eastern flank.
I'm stopping him for a minute. The Ottawa Convention, officially the Anti-Personnel Mine Ban Convention, is an international treaty that prohibits the use, stockpiling, production, and transfer of anti-personnel landmines. It was adopted in 1997 and entered into force. Treaty aims to eliminate the long-term humanitarian impact of landmines. Okay, just so you know, the Ottawa Convention.
What plans does NATO have to strengthen the entire eastern border of Europe, and how will the alliance ensure that the European countries remain committed to increasing their defense capabilities in line with NATO's objectives?
Thank you, Miko. And the final question of this group, Agnes Vadai from Hungary.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. You know, fake news and malign influence on our societies and citizens from our adversaries have become more and more intensive in recent months. Their aim is very clear: to undermine the basic and shared values of our liberal democracies. Our great and beloved friend, the late Jerry Connolly, proposed to set up a Center for Democratic Resilience. Up until this center is established in NATO HQ, which we hope is going to happen very soon, what toolkit does NATO can offer to member states and the citizens of NATO to protect themselves and our commonly shared values from these attacks? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that first round of 3 questions. So,
disinformation from Hungary.
I will absolutely keep on pressing that point. I think it is extremely relevant. It is also about weaponizing beyond, almost literally beyond our borders. And we have to also be aware collectively.
Interesting, Neil. The US has not signed the Ottawa Convention.
All of us in NATO, but of course also beyond. So this is even bigger than our line. So you can count on me that I will keep on pressing that point. And thank you so much for your leadership and also for making clear that this is also of importance to the United States and to you personally. When it comes to the eastern flank, obviously, and this is to Mikko's question from Finland, clearly we have to do more there. First of all, we have to make sure that our 8 forward land forces are fully staffed and equipped, and of course a 9th in Finland. Hopefully we will have soon, and then we will have next to Romania,
Neither
Bulgaria,
have Russia,
Hungary,
India, or China. Interesting.
And Slovakia, and of course Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia, and Poland. We would have our 9th forward land force. That would be very important. So one is to make sure they are fully staffed, etc. We know that Germany has now built up its presence in Lithuania, is building up its presence in Lithuania to a full brigade level. So that is very positive. But there's more to this, because at the same time, these 9 countries, of course, and all of us, all 32, but also these 9 countries on the, who are basically on the eastern flank, they are rapidly building up their own armed forces. We know that at this moment in the 3 Baltic countries and Poland have committed to defense spending close to, and in some cases even over 5%. And this is the hard defense spending they're talking about. That means that we will have more forces, more ready at the level we need them from these countries themselves as a first line of defense. So that's the second layer. The third layer is that we have to make sure that when it comes to all the strategic plans in NATO, that whenever Putin would try something silly, like attacking a part of NATO territory, he has to understand that our reaction will be devastating. And to be devastating, it means that we have to be able to implement and make happen all the plans we have, including all the backup plans, etc., etc. And that is why 8 countries now committing to 2% this year, 6, 7 already there. I think we will all have all 8 countries who were not yet at 2% this year, and then of course agreeing in The Hague.
He does have nice hands. He's a very, very
for hard
handsome
defense
man.
spending, which will be considerably north of 2%. I would think the hard spending even north of 3%, and then committing to the defense-related spending, as I mentioned. This is the third layer, to make sure that we have all our plans staffed and capable and able and trained, so that whenever something happens, we are able to defend the eastern flank. And then finally, to all the others in the room, I still hear in NATO, and here you can help, from countries who are not in the eastern flank, yes, but we are not at the eastern flank. So for us it is less relevant. The difference between Finland and a country like, let's say, Spain or Italy or the Netherlands or the United Kingdom, we are all on the eastern flank, because with the latest missile technology out of Russia, the difference is 5 minutes for these latest missiles to come to us with 5 times the sound of speed, and still very difficult to be taken out by our existing
he was
anti-missile
born
defense system. So
on
let's not kid
Valentine's
ourselves.
Day.
All of us, all 32, we are on the eastern flank. Not only Finland and the other 8 countries. No, we all are basically.
Jane, I think this is in your future. You need to get your freaking ass to Dayton right now.
In NATO. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Agnes is complaining.
Agnes, sorry. Of course. Well, you know, when it comes to this initiative by Jerry, and when I mentioned that he could be quite forceful, also in one-on-ones, this was one of the subjects we discussed. As you know, allies have not reached consensus on the proposal, so that's just a fact. But you also know that democracy, rule of law, individual liberty, they are the core values at the heart of NATO. And that means that NATO policies are informed by these principles. This is what differentiates us, stands us apart from Russia, from China, from North Korea, from Iran, and from other countries who want to harm us. And of course, NATO already has, luckily, existing structures for allies to uphold these core principles. But when it comes concretely, as you know, to the center,
help a sister out.
There we have to, as a statement of fact, come to the
because everybody who lives in The Hague knows each
consensus.
other, right?
But thank you for the question, and let's collectively keep on working on these principles.
Thank you, Mark. We have now another set of 3 questions from Fernando Gutierrez from Spain, Derek Twig from the UK, and Natalia Poussiret from France. Fernando, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Secretary General, for your remarks. I'm here, so thank you. In the European Union White Paper for Defence, the Union establishes a set of priorities in capability gaps to be covered that start by the air defence, long-range ammunition, long-range artillery, ammunition and missiles, drones and anti-drones, etc. However, several EU member states that they are as well NATO members prefer to put the effort in different capabilities such more based in new technologies, such as space-based intelligence or command and control. First question is, do you agree with the European Union set of priorities in it's established in that paper? And second, in this diversity of approaches from different countries,
you better ride a bike. The Dutch are crazy about their bikes.
The limit to that diversity, or in other words, how we should harmonize these approaches in order to be efficient and credible in terms of defense and deterrence. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. Derek Twig from the UK.
Thank you very much. I think it'd just be useful to hear more from the Secretary General on what will count as a successful NATO summit next month. But my specific question is, can he say more on what he believes are the
Derek, please raise your hand so that there is, you see now, it's right in front of you.
What?
Okay, start again. Good morning. I would be interested to hear from the Secretary General about what he thinks will count as a successful NATO summit next month. But my specific question is, can you say more on what you believe are the further concrete steps we need to take to accelerate the growth of our defence industrial base, including how NATO countries can better cooperate to increase interoperability?
Thank you. Natalia Poussiret, France, s'il vous plaît.
Congratulations to them,
I will
Lee.
speak in French,
cool.
so please use your headset.
NATO Secretary General, today Ukraine's army is fighting for the security of its country and its people. Tomorrow, Ukraine's army will remain a shield against Russia and make a key contribution to Euro-Atlantic collective security. Assuming Ukraine will not be demilitarized, what are the guarantees that NATO want to provide to rebuilding the Ukrainian army? To what extent can we trust that there will be support for maintenance and logistics? How will the allies continue to support bolstering the Ukrainian army in the long term? Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. So let me start then with the question from Spain, Fernando Gutierrez. And here I think sometimes things are easy, sometimes. Because in NATO we have, and this was established some time ago and really reinforced by my predecessor, Jens Stoltenberg, we have the system of the NATO defense planning process.
That sounds so cool.
We will, at the 5th of June, when we have our defense ministers meeting, agree on the capability targets. And all allies already on an individual basis have said we agree with the targets we have basically been exposed to. And indeed, you mentioned already some that will mean more maneuverable land formations, long-range missiles, air defense systems, logistics, and obviously ammunition, refilling our stockpiles. And this will help us because from the capability targets, we can assess the gaps immediately. Sometimes the gaps are there because many countries were not at 2%, but even the countries at 2% will have a gap to reach the capability targets, and that will inform us to a large part what has to be the new defense spending target. And this is why I assume that in The Hague we will agree on a hard defense spend target of in total 5%. Sorry, I would not mention that, but at least I did it now. But let's say that it's 5%. But I will not say what is the individual breakup, but it will be considerably north of 3% when it comes to the hard spend. And it will be also a target on defense-related spending. We need this because otherwise we can never, ever reach the capability targets we have to reach. And then there is the distinction between us and the European Union. The European Union and we are working very closely together with Ursula von der Leyen, with Kaja Kallas, with Commissioner Kubilius, but also with Roberta Metsola, who was here. I just met her in the airport last night, here at this NATO Parliamentary Assembly, and of course with Antonio Costa. So we are really working together as one, where the EU is focusing very much on all the issues to do with the internal market, getting the defense industrial base going, making sure that the 27 work together. And here we have to particularly make sure that whatever the EU is doing is also as much as possible accessible for countries like Norway, the United Kingdom, Turkey, but also the United States, Canada and other NATO allies not in the European Union. So there is a clear distinction, a clear division of labor between the EU and NATO. We all realize this, and of course it helps that Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the Commission, was herself a defense minister in Germany before. So everyone's saying that the new defense spending targets have to be anchored in facts and reality is right, and we will do that because it will all flow from one, the capability targets being agreed by the defense ministers, therefore an assessment of the gaps. Second, this realization that we have to equalize with our biggest ally, the United States. They are totally committed to NATO, but have also this expectation that we will equalize in terms of the overall defense spending. And thirdly, the realization that Russia is reconstituting itself at a pace which is staggering. When you look at some of the open sources out of our intelligence services, we see in the media from Germany, from other countries, some will say in 3 years they are able to attack us, some are saying in 5 years, others say in 7 years. So somewhere between 3 and 7 years we have to be ready. We are able to defend ourselves now, but we also have to be able to defend ourselves between 3 and 7 years from now. So thank you for that question, and it is really important. In Wales in 2014, the 2% was a bit like this. Let's do 2%. The new hard defense target and the overall defense spending target when it comes to the hard spend and the defense-related spend has to be anchored in facts, and it will be. The equalization, the build-up of Russia, but first and foremost the capability targets we will agree. Then on the question from the United Kingdom, from Dirk, on a successful NATO summit. One, agreeing the spending. This is really absolutely goal number one. It will project a NATO which is reinvigorated, which is standing proud at the world stage, which is able to defend itself now and in the future.
Ursula is.
And with the biggest
I don't want to break
knowing
up a happy
that
marriage.
the Europeans and
That's not what I'm
Canada
about.
will spend what they are spending in terms of the overall money involved. And that's, I think, crucial for our to be a fair alliance, so to say, also going forward. Secondly, it has to be about, as you said, about the defense industry. The problem is our defense industry is that we have fantastic companies, but they are not really producing nearly enough what we need. Particularly in ammunition, we are now producing in a year what Russia is producing in 3 months. And we is NATO. And NATO is including the US. That is a 50 trillion economy. the US and all the other 31 allies coupled together, a 50 trillion economy. Russia has only 2 trillion, so 25 times smaller, and they produce 4 times more in ammunition than we are producing. This is completely unsustainable. We cannot defend ourselves if we would not develop at a huge speed our defense industrial base. So this will be the second big outcome of The Hague, and of course Ukraine, very important, making sure, depending on where we are in 4 weeks with Ukraine, that we will do whatever is necessary to keep them in the fight and to bring Ukraine to a lasting and durable peace. But on this defense industrial question, I mean, this is really the thing which is keeping me awake at night. I think we will get to the new defense target. I think we will get it because there is large-scale support. But when it comes to defense industry, this is the hard part. We have to get this going. If not, we lack a serious part of our overall deterrence against the Russians, Iran, North Korea and China. China is now rapidly ramping up its defense spending and production. They have now more ships sailing than the US.
That's what it sounds like,
they
Neil.
will have, by the end of the decade, 1,000 nuclear warheads. So please make sure. And
I'm telling you, that's what.
We have fantastic
That's one of the things that
industrial
keeps me up
companies,
at night is
but you
this
have to put in the extra production lines, they have to
rearmament
put in the extra
of
shifts.
the world.
They will always ask for 10-year contracts. We cannot deliver them. Look at the US system. The US system works from year to year. Most European countries work from election cycle to election cycle. But they will know by the 5th of June the targets. They will know by the end of June the money available. So they are businessmen and women. Make them, please help them to make the necessary
Sounds
investments.
interestingly. Like
and to keep
Valenza,
us
I haven't
safe.
heard
And
from
then
him in a minute.
On Ukraine, this is really important. Because NSETU, the command in Wiesbaden, was set up not only to help Ukraine now, to have the best packaging of all the defense industrial support they are getting from allies, but also longer term to make sure that we build up the Ukrainian armed forces as a first layer of defense going forward after a potential long-term ceasefire slash peace deal. Let's hope
some
we will
countries
get there
might
as soon
do
as
it that
possible.
way, Neil.
But then we have to make sure there's a first layer there ready to do that. And of course, then we have other initiatives. I mentioned
What's
the
our
French,
percentage? What's the
British
U.S.
initiatives, the
percentage
Coalition
of
the
spending
Willing.
on
There
NATO?
are other initiatives to make sure that next, let's say, on top of the Ukrainian armed forces themselves, we collectively will support Ukraine after a peace deal to make sure that there is no repeat of Minsk. That Putin will never ever try again to capture 1 square kilometer, 1 square mile of Ukraine. But the first layer of this, exactly to your point, is building up the Ukrainian armed forces.
Thank you. We have a new set of 3 questions from Lorenzo Cesa from Italy, Maya Lisa Follers from Germany, and Hugo Patricio Oliveira from Portugal. Lorenzo, please.
Grazie Presidente. I speak in Italian. No? Ecco. Grazie.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General.
Peace
Thank you for the very hard job you have been carrying out. The Italian delegation asked to insert in the draft declaration a paragraph to draw attention at the Hague Summit on the need to improve understanding, our people's understanding about the scope, about the goals, the values, the policies and priorities of the alliance. And this is very much needed in order to counter disinformation which depicts NATO as an offensive alliance.
Got selected to be U.S. student ambassador.
The case. We are a tool for peace. This is important, not just for the countries which want to join NATO.
That's so cool.
Their public opinions don't know exactly what the real nature of NATO is. I would like to know what the Secretary General, the Secretariat General does in general in this regard. We have to work together. We are parliamentarians, so the relationship with parliamentarians is essential, and we can give a
Sometimes
hand,
these questions
in
don't
order
make any
to
sense to me.
explain what NATO's reasons are.
Lisa Vollers from Germany.
Dear Mr. President, dear Secretary General, thank you for joining us. I'm over here. Here.
What is your concrete vision for burden shifting to a more European-led NATO? How can US and European allies, legitimate but seemingly contradictory interests, be balanced and a suitable compromise be found? Can this be achieved within ongoing NATO processes?
Danke. Hugo Patricio Oliveira, Portugal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Secretary General, thank you for your remarks. My question is related to NATO Southern Neighborhood. In the run-up to the Hague Summit, how do you assess the development of NATO Southern Neighborhood Action Plan for the South? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And first of all, to the question of Lorenzo Chiesa. Of course, this is essential. This is about not letting ourselves being diverted.
Yeah, I
and
don't think we're going to learn much
by
more.
what other things.
As much as I love Mark Rutte, we just adore him. I don't know if we're going to learn terribly much more, but we will go ahead and give him. That's right. You've been listening to the sexy stylings of one NATO sexy Terry General. That's right. That's what we call him. Mark Rutte, everybody. Thank you, Mark. Please don't put us in another arms race. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. All right. Bye. Okay. Putin will never stop. He can't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, check out those hands, right? All right. Well, thank you, Mark Rutte. You've thoroughly depressed us. I just think that's fantastic. Oh my God. I'm gonna check the breaking. Hey, guess what? You guys, guess what? Good news. Good news. Let me give you some good news. Whoops, wrong one. Let me give you some good news. The good news is that I no longer have an active subscription to the New York Times. I know. Thank God. Thank God we got rid of that. Okay, so we no longer have to deal with the New York Times. So I've been pulling up Reuters and stuff like that just for like a quick glance at the headlines. And so this is the headline. So Hamas, it said, hello, stop it. Little foldy things. Okay. Hamas agrees to U.S. proposal on Gaza ceasefire, Palestinian official says. Yeah, I'm an NYT Exeter. I ended up paying by mistake for an annual subscription. So it just ended like last week. So no, I just don't want to pay them. If I'm going to pay a journalist, it's probably going to be a local kind of, I haven't decided yet, but it'll probably be something like that. I don't know. And, okay, Hamas has agreed to a proposal by U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, oh boy, for a Gaza ceasefire. A Palestinian official close to the group told Reuters, paving the way for a possible end to the war. Really? 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 I'll believe it when I see it. The head of U.S.-backed Gaza Aid Foundation quits as further Israeli airstrikes kill dozens. Hamas-led groups execute 4 for looting aid trucks amid dissent. And the Palestinians to raise their flag at the World Health Organization for the first time after a vote. And this was the part that I was talking about this morning. You know, Trump says Putin has gone absolutely crazy and is considering new sanctions. I don't really understand where we're at with this thing. And I also get a little confused by the economic news coming out of Russia in terms of how close Russia is to running out of money. I find that hard to believe, number one. And not that I can point to, you know, all the ways that they bring in money and armaments, although... what did I hear? I heard something really interesting about why China might consider going why whatchamacallit, why they might consider doing that. Wait, Jane, I'm going to lose my federal dental insurance because of your warmongering boyfriend. We'll have supersonic nuclear missiles, but I'll have no teeth. Thanks a lot. Next, what time does the king? Oh, is the king speaking? King Charles? Let me see. I don't know. Gosh, I didn't even sure. I didn't know he was. Where is it? Dun, 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 dun. Britannia rules the waves. King Charles. King Charles. Oops. King Charles the alpha dog. No, that's not what you meant, right? King Charles' throne speech, a strong symbol of Canadian what on Monday. Oh, that's right, they're in Canada. Hello, let me see. Hold on just a minute. Thank you for the heads up. No, he's gonna. It was just another thing. Oh, it's right now. Wait, which one is this one? Ah! That's not it. He's talking on the screen, but he's not. Whatever. It's weird. Never mind. Hold on. Let me bring this. Well, actually, should I bring this over here? I don't know. Could be scary. Okay, King Charles to visit. I don't know what that is. All right. I'm trying to look for like a really good channel, but there really aren't. But let's talk about the goddamn. Like, is he really? I mean, what's this? See, why does that have music? I don't even get that. What is that?
Relationship between England and Canada, and yeah, really good.
What? Huh? Huh?
As a Canadian living in downtown Toronto, there's a lot of homeless people here. And,
As the Daily Guardian. I don't know what that is. Yeah, YouTube got doged.
Come to say a speech.
I'm not used to King Charles. Yeah.
Save us a lot of
I know. I
money.
think it's a dog. I
he
know.
didn't
Oh, he's
come,
sick? Oh, I didn't know that.
We could spend that money helping the homeless people in downtown Toronto.
Okay, so he's not. Is he? Wait a minute. Okay. Let me look this up. Hold on.
With the tariffs and the trade that's going on, the trade war, if the British monarchy plays a more active role in Canadian politics and standing up for Canada, then I welcome the British monarchy. But I just find personally that he's been very silent, and he's been more open to Donald Trump by having a state visit to England, to the UK, and he's not saying too much about Canada. So I'm rather disappointed in the British monarchy.
Thank you, sir.
No,
I'm with you.
No, right. But why are we supporting a country 200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal. All of these other things, they should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down.
America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never.
Mr. Trump, what have you in common with Ms. Keir Starmer? This is a letter from His Majesty the King.
Yeah, I'm not. Okay, we won't that. How much do you give Putin yearly? Yeah, really. Okay, wait, where is this? All right, so King Charles arrived in Ottawa on Monday, a visit that will underscore Canada's sovereignty to U.S. President, blah, blah, blah. Trump's repeated suggestion, blah, 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 that the U.S. annex its northern neighbor prompted Prime Minister Mark Carney to invite Charles to give the speech from the throne that will outline his government's agenda. When is it? I'm just looking to see if it says what time it's coming. Oh, man, what time is it at? Let me see if I can find something here. Hold on. When? Oh, 11 a.m. So it should be when? What time is it? What? It should have been at 40 minutes ago. What? Did we miss it? Did we miss it? What? What the fuck? Where is it? It said it was supposed to happen at 8, so it should be like either now, like, or any time now. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me do. I'm sorry. I'm so slow. I know. That's not it. That's not it. Oh, wait. No. Where is it? Wait, King Charles full address. That's 2 weeks ago. No. What about the CBC? They must be having something on it, right? Fucking hell. Come on now. God damn it.
Alberta has a bad
be
case
quiet.
of the measles.
Stop. You.
Winning his third straight majority.
Sorry. Okay, that's not happening. Oh my God. You would think they put a man on the moon, but they can't have one fucking website that says, oh, when you want to hear the king, you hit this button and you go to this place. No, we can't do that. You still have, you know what? But yeah, I'll sell you some socks when you're Googling socks, but no, I can't tell you. All right. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. I'm reading. Ba 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 ba. God damn it. Hold on. I'm trying one more thing and then I'm just going to give up. Is it not newsworthy? Because I look at a lot of Canadian news, so it can't really be my algorithm. Hold on. Hold on. No, all I see is the goddamn walking syphilis case at whatchamacallit, at the Memorial Day tribute at Arlington. That's all I see. Hold on, I'm coming back because you guys might have more wisdom than I do. Read the chat. 11 a.m. Tuesday. I was covering the chat. I didn't see it. Let's see. 8:40. Neil says it's tomorrow. What time is it now? 3 or 4 minutes of me going, where's the meat? Oh my God, you guys. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I had the chat covered, so I was looking. I'm sorry. Today's one of those days. Okay, today's just forgive me for today, okay, please? Can you guys forget today happened? Please. Fuck, God damn it. You know what? Why am I surprised? Not as bad as the Elon voice for 25 minutes. Oh my God. I think I should just delete this broadcast and not try again tomorrow. I'm so sorry. You guys must hate me. Someone needs my phone number so they can just text me, okay? Someone needs to just get my phone number and you can text me and say, hello, brainless. Hey, brainless. Oh, well, I love you guys. Thank you so much. Well, tomorrow we're going to watch it then. Your show's going way better than my non-existent show. My shows always go much better. I know that skinny joint did me in. My shows always go much better in my head when they're not happening. Oh my god. Oh, yeah. Oh boy. All right. Well, there you go. maybe I should just cut my losses. Yeah, anyway. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Sorry. That was incredibly frustrating that you had to watch me go through that. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, but moving on. Let's go back to some campfire for a minute. Oh man, it is, I should never wonder why I am alone in this life. EU sees new impetus in trade talks from weekend call. Oh, okay. So a weekend telephone call between President Dump and EU chief Ursula von der Leyen gave new impetus to trade talks, like the EU said, after Trump dropped his threat. See, this is what I wanted to find out. Now, I want to see. Yeah, Ursula, don't touch him. He's going to give you a disease. Don't touch him. Okay, I wanted to find out the tea on this. Okay, Dump's decision to drop his threat to impose 50% tariffs on European Union imports from next month gave new impetus to trade talks, blah, blah, blah. Backtracking on the new tariffs he announced on Friday. God. Trump on Sunday restored a July 9th deadline to allow for talks between Washington and the 27-nation bloc, after he said what was a very nice call with EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen. Yeah, but I want to know. Oh, okay, wait. The pan-European stocks recovered to where it was trading before Friday's surprise tariff announcement, and the euro rose. It is market manipulation. Yeah, it must have been the herb. Blame it on the alcohol. Blame it on the alcohol. I'm not going to do the Elmo voice again. No, I'm sorry. I won't. If you really were a dino, you could just eat all the jerks. I know. I could. Jane had better pull ruta. Wonder bar. I love that. That's fucking awesome. I love you too, butterflies. Thanks for being patient. Oh God. At least you can mute, right? Like at least you can just mute it. Mute it for I'll mute it until she realizes what she's doing. Put on some music. No. Okay, so the European stocks recovered after this bullshit. Gold prices fell as Trump's latest move reduced demand. Okay. They agreed to fast-track the trade negotiations, a European Commission spokesperson said. I just want to know if von der Leyen made the phone call or if he did. U.S. and EU trade representatives were due to hold talks later on Monday. There's now a new impetus, blah, blah, blah. This doesn't mean anything. The U.S. about turn reminded policymakers and investors how quickly his trade policy could change, however, and it was unclear how the EU would square its push for a mutually beneficial trade deal. Commerzbank currency strategist Michael Feister said the European Union could reach a deal with the U.S. by July 9th, but that Friday's announcement made it clear the respite was temporary. It's questionable what has changed in terms of the fundamental problems following a phone call. EU companies on edge. Several business leaders said the sheer uncertainty made it hard to plan anything. I mean, that's it. That's it. Yeah, we just play Tetris while you're looking for links. That's good. Yeah, really. Have a backup. Have a backup plan when you watch my show. Jean-Marc Gaugier, the managing director of Italy's auto part maker lobby group Anfia, told Reuters he still hoped the talks would succeed, but that the formulating strategies was complicated. Quote, U.S. duties are an additional source of concern in an already difficult scenario for the Italian automotive industry. Germany's family-owned Lap Group, which makes everything from cables and wires to robotics for factories, warned that some of its specialized products would still be affected by the volatile business environment. Unfortunately, current U.S. politics is characterized by unpredictability, individual interest, and populism. CEO Matthias, I think in some languages, told Reuters. Germany's good transatlantic relations have been built up over decades of diplomatic work and mutual understanding. However, confidence in their stability is currently suffering massive damage. EU Trade Chief Maros Sefcovic held a video conference with the CEOs of Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, BMW, and Stellantis as business wondered what plans, if any, they should make. Oh, that's interesting. Trump, who has repeatedly expressed disdain for the EU, they're too fancy for him, and its treatment of the United States on trade, dropped the plan to recommend a 50% tariff effective from June 1st after von der Leyen told him that the EU needed more time to come to an agreement. Get out of here, duck. I agreed to move it, Dump said before returning to Washington after a weekend in New Jersey. She said, we will rapidly get together and see if we can work something out. Von der Leyen said in a post on X that she had a good call with Trump and that the EU was ready to move quickly. Europe is ready to advance talks swiftly and decisively. To reach a good deal, we would need the time until July 9th. The negotiations had been stuck, with Washington demanding unilateral concessions from Brussels to open up U.S. businesses while the EU seeks an agreement in which both sides could gain, according to people familiar. The EU already faces 25% U.S. import tariffs on its steel, aluminum, and cars, and so-called reciprocal tariffs of 10% for almost all other goods, a levy that had been due to rise to 20% after Trump's 90-day pause expires in July. The levy could increase to 50% in a no-deal scenario, based on what he said on Friday, which could raise consumer prices on everything from German BMWs and Porsches to Italian olive oil and hurt demand for French luxury handbags. Well, Louis Vuitton isn't actually like a luxury handbag, but okay. It was not clear, however, whether the 50% would be levied on imports not subject to the U.S. reciprocal tariff, such as steel, cars, and other products subject to investigations such as semiconductors, pharmaceutical products, and lumber. I mean, this is just such a fucking mess. Such a fucking mess. I did not realize I was doing Elmo's voice the whole time. No, it doesn't go in my ear. I don't know. Terrible. Horrible. Terrible, horrible, no good Monday. Fuck this Monday. Anyway, that's interesting. This is a mess. This entire fucking tariff thing is just a huge mess. Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading this Reuters story. This entire tariff thing is just a huge fucking mess. I can't. You can't tell me that anything about this is even remotely healthy for any kind of economy. I don't know. What was those? Hold on. Let me just see one thing. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, 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 wah. Yeah. That's not it. Nope. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Hold on. Just a quick check of the economy. If it's subject to 232 on auto parts, it's not subject to any other tariffs, like a game now, to see if you can remember all the tariffs that are applicable to a certain item. Right, Lee? And like these stacked on tariffs, like, I don't know. I'm waiting for like the shoe to drop. When do the prices jump up really high? Or when do the supplies start, when does that start falling apart? I was watching something. I wanted to find one thing that I was watching yesterday. Hold on. Because it was Justin Wolfers, who I really love Justin Wolfers. I think his very plain approach to this kind of thing makes it easier for me to understand what's happening. I want to see if I can find him. Because he was on the Times radio this weekend. Yeah, that's it. Yes, this is really bad. I want to play this 10-minute thing, but first I wanted to look at GDP. I wanted to look at the numbers currently. Oh, these are world numbers. Shit, that's not the one I wanted. Sorry. Okay, never mind. Scratch that. Now I want to go to this.
And this.
Justin, don't start yet. All right. I'll leave it to this guy. Okay, so I want to go back a little bit because all right. So I'll jump in because they spend a little bit of time in the beginning just kind of going, even if they spend a little time going, oh, hey, how you doing? How are you doing? Yeah, you don't need to hear that part. But anyway, then they jump into kind of where we're at. And this is from Friday? No, this is from, Saturday, Sunday. It was Friday, I think, or Saturday. Here we go.
A lot of those tariffs ended up sort of being scaled back. Is this just a way to scare the EU? I think Trump said in his statement today
he's talking about
that he
the
was finding
particular
Brussels
EU
very difficult to
negotiations.
Deal with. Mate, I'm coming to you from America. I'm scared. So whatever the bloke reckons he's getting from scaring the Europeans, he's scaring American business too. More than that, he's scaring foreign investors. I cannot think of a world in which this makes sense. I mean, look, the one thing it does is it ensures that there will be a spotlight on Donald J. Trump for the next 24 hours and also the next week. And it also means that, there's been this whole telenovela of Trump and his tariffs. And Fergus, my guess is, when he finally walked away from the Liberation Day tariffs, you thought to yourself, thank goodness I can stop interviewing economists. Guys like me could just recede into the background. And I think what you've learned is this is a soap opera that's going to endure for 4 years. That's what's terrifying about this. So, 50% is really bad, really, really bad. So bad that you're leading the show with it. But we do know from the first Trump administration in the early parts of this one, anytime anything goes bad enough, long enough, he backs off. But he's also shown that even though that is the most well-established pattern of the Trump presidency, announce tariffs, markets tank. Back off, markets rise. Announce them, they tank. Back off, they rise. Couldn't have missed that. This story is one that's just going to keep on keeping on. So, Fergus, really bad news. You and I are going to have to keep talking.
I'm sure
more often than you might want.
I'm sure both me and our audience wouldn't mind that at all, Justin. I just have one more quick question on this, because as we said, the details are still a little bit hazy. The second part is, as we mentioned, the 25% tariffs on Apple products made outside of the US. Now, this is obviously slightly different, but has this ever happened before, tariffs on a specific company rather than a trading partner?
I'm going to give you the best answer I can, which is I have never heard of this before. And I thought, boy, if I had more than 4 minutes, I would call 7 of my favorite tariff experts to see if this has ever happened before. Those guys are probably all on the phone with each other right now. I literally cannot recall it ever happening. I am almost certain there would be legal issues around that. By the same token, there's almost certainly legal issues around every part of the Trump tariff agenda. Remember that the Constitution gives power over tariffs explicitly to Congress. Congress delegated certain emergency powers to the White House. So then what the White House does is declares an emergency every second day. The emergency it used for the last set of tariffs was that the United States it has a balance of has a deficit, a trade deficit with many countries. Now, the United States, as with every other major country, has had many, many years of trade deficits. So the idea that any of this was ever an emergency is absurd on its face. And there are suits moving forward in a bunch of different states. Surely Apple will be in court by the end of the afternoon, but as we've seen so far, that appears not to stop the Trump administration on much.
Thank you so much for helping us out and dealing with that. We will move on to what we originally planned to talk about, which is Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill, as he called it, which passed through the US House last night. It's a huge domestic sort of tax bill, and in typical fashion, the president called it.
Let me say this thing about Tim Cook. It is because I believe Apple announced, I was just trying to find the story. Apple announced that they would be building plants, I believe, in India, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, that made what's his name mad. And he decided, that. But the bottom line is that he would. Apple doesn't give a shit. Apple is a global company. They don't just sell phones to Americans. So the fact that they would upend an entire supply chain, or manufacturing rather, and move it over here exclusively is ridiculous. And I hope Tim Cook doesn't mushmouth this entire thing and talk his way through it. I hope he confronts it and says this is ridiculous, and no business leader can operate in this sophomoric, petulant administration. Right? So that is what Tim Cook and other business leaders should be doing, Jamie Dimon, etc. They should be standing up and saying this is unacceptable from a fucking from a business strategy standpoint. So that's the part that I really just don't really get away. Yeah, with tariffs, $3,500 iPhone. U.S. manufactured iPhone, $5,000. Thank you, Max. Yeah, Modi is a dick. Anyway, Apple. Let's see, was this it? Okay, well, anyway, we'll come back. I'm going to grab a story about that and throw it in the description of the video. But it is something to think about in terms of what the fact that Apple is in this moment, and I hope Tim Cook meets that moment.
The most significant piece
People
of
have to
legislation
speak much more plainly to this
in the
administration.
history
I don't
of our
understand.
country.
That part gets me
What is
really.
it, Justin?
Now they're turning their sights on the bill.
Sorry, that was, if the listeners couldn't hear, that was a sigh. Then I closed my eyes to find a moment of zen. And the truth is I couldn't find it. Okay, so this is the budget. This is how we take the money in and how the money goes out. The president is right about one thing, which is it is extraordinary. By the estimates of one budget wonk, Bobby Kogan, is very reliable. This is the largest redistribution from poor to rich in American history. It's taking Robin Hood and stripping him out of his green, where he's doing something helpful, and putting him bright red so that he can do something unhelpful, and then giving him steroids. It's the anti-Robin Hood. Look, a budget is lots of different things. So let me go through, I think, 3 ways of thinking about budgets. Because, by the way, I'm sure that your listeners, when they hear the word budget, their eyes glaze over. Let me try and explain why they shouldn't. So the first thing is there's the stuff you always hear about on the news, which is what's the budget deficit, what's the surplus, what's the national debt. One way of thinking about that is that's redistribution between today and the future. So this is a very, very large budget deficit. So this is saying we're not going to pay our way right now. We're going to have the future pay our way. The traditional way of doing this is in good times, we try and sock away a little bit of money so that in bad times, there's a little more to spend. Next time there's a pandemic, a global recession, something like that. As of right now, the US has a budget deficit of 6.4%, which in English is pretty darn big, despite the fact that unemployment is still near a 50-year low. So it feels like it should be a time to sock it away. But in fact, they're spending as if we just entered a global recession, which, by the way, they may just have engineered. So that's the first thing it is. The second thing a budget is redistribution. Who gets what and who pays what. Just think of it as, we hand around the pot, who puts into the pot and who takes out of the pot. Very simple, just like that. There are lots of different ways we give people money from the pot. Sometimes we give them cash. for instance, food stamps, and sometimes we give them, well, food stamps are not cash, but sometimes we give them health insurance, like Medicaid. Sometimes we help them with their housing. So that's when we go through and do the math and add all that up, we have tax cuts for the rich, paid for by cuts in spending that would help the poor. That's the sense in which a budget is all about how much of a Robin Hood are you, and this is the biggest redistribution from poor to rich in American history.
And the statistics I've got in front of me from the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, they claim that it would cut resources for the lowest income households by 4% by 2023 and increase resources for the highest earners by 2%.
Yes. And realize the highest earners have a lot. So 2% of a lot means the very wealthy are getting a ton. The third thing a budget is, and this is closely related, and this is where your listeners might actually find budgets interesting, a budget's a statement of values, right? Just like when your family decides who you're going to give your charitable giving to, whether you're going to spend on your kids' education or whether you're going to spend on nights out at the pub, those are all values. And a budget is the clearest sense in which you're stating your values. The values here are the social safety net, which in the United States already has enormous holes in it, is something they're trying to remove. And taxes, which there are very good arguments about both ways. Taxes pay for the social safety net, but taxes also do make it harder to get rich. Taxes are a problem according to this budget, and they're particularly a problem for the wealthy, which is the part I'm less, actually, I believe is nonsense.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the last time you and I spoke a couple of weeks ago, we talked a little bit about reports that Trump had actually proposed within his cabinet to raise taxes for the most wealthy and those earning $1 million a year. Some reported that that could even be as high as 40% for the top rate of tax. What's happened to that in this big, beautiful bill?
So Trump is actually a very interesting figure because he's a populist. He won vote. He's a conservative, a right-winger, who won votes from the disaffected working class. It's an extraordinary coalition, right? The Republicans used to be the country club folks, and now the leader of the country club party is beloved by the working class. And he likes being loved. So he said something that we've never heard from a Republican before, which is maybe we ought to keep relatively high taxes on some of the wealthy. And I'm sure he probably got an extra cheer at the next rally as a result of that. Now, it turns out that budgets are not determined by the White House, they're determined by Congress. Power of the purse rests with the Congress. This is a Republican Congress, so Republicans hold the Congress, hold the House and the Senate. They have basically rolled over on everything Trump wanted. So the tariff war is entirely a creature of Trump. They could stop it if they wanted to. They've chosen not to. The immigration stuff, some of the really, really ugly stuff, they've chosen not to be involved in. But there's exactly one thing they stood up and said, enough, this won't do. And it was when Trump went so populist that he suggested that high taxes on the rich were okay. So I think Trump kind of maybe sort of potentially wanted it. Who knows? I'm not a Trumpologist, but the Republican Party is not having a word of it. And so that got lost very, very early on in the process. So they decided to strip healthcare, health insurance from low-income Americans before they would accept higher taxes on high-income Americans.
Okay, I just want to ask you this. I'm going to read the whole thing because I think it's important. Are there any, in your view, positives that can come from this bill? And I'm talking about the potential increase to GDP. So the White House's own Council of Economic Advisors came up with quite staggering figures of 4.2 to 5.
Stephen Mirren, author of the Mar-a-Lago Accord, the head of the president's chief economic advisors. So consider the source.
2% increase in the short term. But then the Tax Foundation said it would add 0.6% in the long run, and the Penn Wharton budget model forecast 0.5% in the next 10 years and 1.7% in the next 30. So they're all saying it's going to increase GDP.
Right. So look, let's go back. Can we spend a moment teaching economics here? There are two ways in which economists think about the macroeconomy, the economy as a whole. We think about what we call the short run. That's the ups and downs of the business cycle. And then we talk about the long run.
Or complicit.
Right? So in the long run, how much can the US economy produce? That's determined by how many machines we have, how many people we have, how well qualified those people are, and what ideas, methods we have for putting all these things together to produce more with less efficiency. So when you're citing most of those experts, they're often thinking about these long run things. And in those models, if you reduce taxes on businesses invest more, creates more capital, more machines, and therefore we have the potential to produce more stuff. That's the basic logic of what's going on there. Now, one might ask, and it's a completely separate question, if we produce more stuff, but it all goes to the same 10 guys, are we any better off? That's a harder question. It's not a technical question because it depends a little bit on what's in your heart, how you feel about equality and inequality. And so none of these models ever take that directly into account. But we think GDP will grow in the long run. And to be clear, the numbers here are often very small. Fergus, I didn't catch every number you said, but I'm sure they were all fractions of a percentage point.
They are, apart from the White House's own Council of Economic, which said about 4.2 to 5.2.
Right. So most of these say in the long run, the level of GDP might be a fraction of a percentage point higher, and it's basically providing a stronger incentive for investment. Now, by the way, what's missing here is stuff that's harder to quantify, because this is just saying if you reduce the tax rate, we buy more machines. But also, if you kick all the international students out of Harvard, that's not part of the tax bill. They're not going to bring in their revenues, but more to the point, they're not bringing their ideas. And the most important thing for driving living standards of economies over time is new ideas. We create computers, then iPhones, then AI, and these are really the fundamental forces that make us all richer. Those we've decimated spending on research and development. Another thing that drives investment is you've got to trust the rule of law, that if I invest in a factory, I'll be allowed to run it profitably. But that's getting peeled back. Now, Tim Cook is being told how to run Apple. Those things are not in our formal Excel spreadsheet models, and they may dominate any of these things. Certainly when we look at cross countries and across time, what are the overwhelming features that describe why are some periods of time richer than others? Why are some countries richer than others? It's about these deep institutional factors. In fact, the most recent Nobel Prize in economics was given for exactly that understanding. So all of that stuff is missing. It's just if you change the incentives through the tax system, do we buy more machines? That's the long run in these models, but really we should call that the medium run, because the really long run is all the stuff I was just talking about. The short run in these models is the ups and downs of the business cycle. And this is something Republicans traditionally eschewed, which is this is basically what we would call Keynesian demand management. If the government spends a bunch of money on roads, that's going to require them to hire a bunch of guys to dig ditches. And those guys might buy sandwiches at lunch, and that's going to filter through the economy, right? We think that in a typical introductory economics class, we'd say the long run factors describe what we're capable of, and these short run factors describe whether we meet that potential. So yeah, they're stimulating the economy by a lot. At a moment, we don't need it. We didn't just have a pandemic, right? We're not yet, knock on wood, in the middle of a recession. We aren't at war. So you throw a whole lot of money at the economy, it filters around, and there's more likely to be demand for all of the stuff that the economy can supply. And so that's what the White House Council of Economic Advisors is talking about. It's saying we are throwing so much money at the economy, it's going to boom. If you look at the state of the economy right now, tell me if it makes sense to throw a bunch of money at it. The thing Republicans criticized the Biden administration for was throwing money at the economy during COVID. They think he threw too much at it, and that caused inflation. Well, we're also throwing trillions at the economy, but we don't have COVID right now. I'll let you finish that sentence for yourself.
I want to ask one question. Now, this is getting a little bit more complicated, but I want to ask about bond yields, because they've settled down slightly, but last night they were at their highest since 2007. And I want to ask, does this correlate to something similar that is happening in Japan? And some people are fearing this could translate into a global debt crisis. Please just try and help me make sense of it and help our audience make sense of it.
Man, you don't give me an easy job, do you? How much are you paying me for this, Fergus? Okay. Wow. Okay. Much of what's... I'm going to break it up. I'm pausing because I'm trying to add some structure here. And I want people to understand. So I'm going to do the same trick I just did a moment ago. I'm going to talk about the long run and the short run separately. Okay? So the long run is, think about there as being a supply and demand of funds, of money. Not money, but funds, of like, I need to borrow for a house, I want to lend, I want to save for retirement and so on. So there's a market in which people are borrowing and lending. And the price in that market's the interest rate. That's a global market. That's what bond markets and all this international financial blah, blah, blah is all about. We're all connected. Now, what's happening right now in the United States is we're running a massive budget deficit. We're about to run even larger. Much
it's
larger.
going to be hot today.
And you're seeing that in other countries as well. So what that means is a whole bunch of borrowers just came to market. If there's now more borrowers, but just as many lenders, borrowers are sort of like the demand for loans. So we've got more demand, no more supply. What happens is the price of loans rises. That's the interest rate, the real interest rate, inflation adjusted. And if we're talking at that deep long run level, sometimes we call that the neutral real interest rate. If you want to know more, we'll talk again. By the way, we're doing graphs verbally. It's amazing. So basically, whenever there's a big borrower comes to market, and big has to be like a government, right? If they want to borrow more, the price of loans goes up. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, think about, look, I got a friend who I used to lend money to, but then he kind of fell on hard times and he stopped paying me back. I like him. I'd like to lend money to him, but I'm sick of losing money. So I kind of stopped. I cut him off. Well, global markets do that as well. But actually what they do is, instead of cutting you off, is they jack up the interest rate to account for the risk. So this is part of another proper noun the audience will be hearing, is the sell America trade. We're worried that lending money to the US government is no longer the safe bet that it once was. So bond yields are rising then for two reasons. This fundamental deep reason, which is we now have governments trying to borrow more money. So interest rates are going up. And by the way, that leaves less money for companies to borrow to fund new investment.
And we should say as well, one of the reasons this is happening is that this bill is estimated to add $5.2 trillion to the US debt.
Yeah, and I want to just point out to your audience, the most important word Fergus just said is trillion. The problem is that million, billion, and trillion sound the same, but they're dramatically different. And there was a time not that long ago where if Fergus and I wanted to talk about economics, we'd be using the word billion. But the world got crazier. We're now talking about trillion, which is 1,000 times more. And we're talking about it as if it's an everyday occurrence. So maybe we're better off, instead of saying trillion, saying thousands of billions or millions of millions. The point is, this latest bill is going to add an extra borrower to the market. That jacks up interest rates.
I hope your weekend is
and
good.
then the Sell America trade adds a risk premium to that as well.
Thank you so much for explaining all of that. That was a
I
big
still
job.
don't
It's covered a
understand
lot.
all of it, but I
just
like
wanna
the way he
finish.
approaches
You
it.
sort of
Now I
touched on it
kind
a
of
little
get
earlier,
the debt yield a
talking
little
about
more,
Harvard.
debt issue.
because we know the president's been in a dispute for the university for quite some time now, but it did escalate quite significantly last night when...
All right, I'm going to cut them off because they move on to Harvard. I'll definitely link this interview in the description of the video. I really appreciate Justin for his like straightforward explanation, and he's got that, you know, really good professor approach. So I really appreciate that. I'm going to play one last thing here, also on the big beautiful bill. This is slightly more depressing than what Justin just was. So sorry, I probably should have reversed these two things. But this is from yesterday's Face the Nation. I don't watch it when it's live, but I try to pick up on some of the clips, and I'll play a little bit of this. Mike's Little Johnson, sorry. He'll tell you the, he's going to feed you the bullshit line of what Justin was just talking about and telling you the truth about. So let's listen to Mike's Little Johnson.
Through just barely 1 vote margin, you pulled an all-nighter. Among other things, it will eliminate taxes on tips and overtime, put about $50 billion towards the border wall.
So I don't think it eliminates taxes on tips. Well, first of all, it is only a temporary measure. Whatever they're doing in this bill that is at all perceived to be positive is only a few years. And it actually won't make a difference. Number two, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, but I don't think I am, that it means that if you itemize your taxes, that you can deduct a certain amount of income that come through tips. But it is not eliminating taxes. That sounds so much more impactful. Because I don't know about you, but one of the things that changed when I was working and when I was after the 2017 tax bill, one of the things that changed was that I could no longer itemize. That because of my, because of the withholding or whatever it was, I no longer was in a position where I was able to itemize and get enough versus the modicum of standard deduction. So I feel that my post-tax was definitely still negatively impacted by the 2017 tax bill. Oh, yeah, right. Oh, that's right. The Citizens United documentary point about bribes really being tips. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, is that what stops someone from classifying certain income as a tip? That was another thing that was mentioned on something I think we watched last, or maybe we watched it 2 weeks ago. Now I don't remember. Yeah. And isn't the no tax on tips? I believe there's a lot of different restrictions on this type of stuff. So anyway, I just want to point that out, that this is not the panacea that it's being portrayed as. Obviously, we know that, but there are a lot of people who don't know that.
And hiring Border Patrol agents, keep in place existing individual tax rates, create savings accounts for kids with a one-time deposit of $1,000, increase the child tax credit by about $500. The bill on this is estimated to be
for
between
a few
$4
years
and $5 trillion over the next decade. How much do you think this is all going to cost?
Well, that's about the right estimate, but at the same time, we have historic savings for the American people, cuts to government to make it more efficient and effective and work better for the people. That was a big campaign promise of President Trump and a big promise of ours, and we're going to achieve that. So in the calculation here, there's more than $1.5 trillion in savings, Margaret, for the people. And that's the largest amount, biggest cut in government, really, in at least 30 years. And if you adjust for inflation, probably the largest in the history of government. So we're proud of what we produced here. We've checked all the boxes. We're all the things that you mentioned in existence, in addition to American energy dominance, investing in our military industrial base, which is appropriate for us to talk about this weekend, and so many other priorities. And that's why we call it the one big beautiful bill. I think arguably it's the most consequential legislation that Congress will pass in many generations, and it's a long time coming.
Well, just this morning, we did hear from some of your Republican colleagues over in the Senate, where this heads next, that they can't support the bill as it is written. I think you know this. Senator Rand Paul said the cuts are wimpy and anemic. The math doesn't add up. It will explode the debt. In addition to that political criticism, you've already seen Moody's credit rating agency downgrade American credit, and Goldman Sachs says that this bill will not offset the damage from the president's tariffs. Isn't this an economic gamble?
No, it's not an economic gamble. It's a big investment. And look, what this bill is going to do is be jet fuel to the U.S. economy. It's going to foster a pro-growth economy. What do we mean by that? Because we're reducing taxes, we're reducing regulations, we're going to increase and incentivize American manufacturing again. And the effect this will have in the economy is that entrepreneurs and risk takers and job creators will have an easier time in doing that. They will allow for more jobs and more opportunity for more people, and wages will increase. Now, Margaret, this is not a theoretical exercise. We did this already in the first Trump administration. After just the first 2 years, we brought about the greatest economy in the history of the world, not just the U.S., because we followed a very simple formula. We cut taxes and we cut regulations.
You didn't do it in the middle of a tariff war.
We're doing that on steroids.
In the first administration, there was sequencing. You got tax reform. The Republicans got tax reform through and held off the tariff war. Goldman Sachs says the hit to growth from tariffs will more than offset the boost to growth from the fiscal package. That's Goldman Sachs.
Well, I know. I respect Goldman Sachs, but
do you?
I think
they're
what
not
they're discounting
person.
here is the growth that will be spurred on by this legislation, and the fact that the so-called tariff war is beginning to subside already. You've got over 75 countries that are negotiating new, more fair trade agreements for the U.S. right now because of the president's insistence that be done.
We're sending them letters.
It was decades overdue. That is going to benefit every American. It's going to benefit the consumers. You know, they howled when the
Okay, I can't even listen to him anymore, but you get the point. You get the point. Listen, you know what? I would love for everything to be true, but the bottom line is that this bill actually makes our lives worse. And I'm sorry that the maggots don't read or don't. I can't even read I want to, and I can't even read everything that would help me understand what is going on. But I'm going to tell you, this fucking bill that is going to be the focus of this week, hopefully with the Senate, and I hope that senators do stand up to it. Rand Paul wants to cut more, so I'm not really excited about him. But there needs to be some resistance to this, and we're not even talking about what is in this bill in terms of codifying a rollback of environmental protections, the SNAP benefits, the cut to food aid, the cut to job programs, the cut to all of those things that were aspirational that maybe we hoped could help improve people's lives. And my other question when it comes to generating that much of an additional debt, up to $5 trillion over 10 years, is the current Congressional Budget Office estimate, or between 4 and 5. As they said there, which even Mike agreed was the right estimate. Okay, they're not even hiding the fact that this thing creates immense pressure to the national deficit. That makes me wonder that makes me think back to the Mar-a-Lago Accord in terms of renegotiating the holders of foreign debt and the treasury bills. I mean, are we setting ourselves up to borrow a bunch of money and then just default on it? Is that what part of the next phase is? Right? Is that what part of the next phase is? And then what happens? What happens when we default? Is the game that we hope to have generated enough reshoring of AI and crypto, and does that become the like, I just don't, like, it does kind of fit the MO. And perhaps it's a and perhaps it's a strategy that sells, right? Perhaps that's the strategy that sells, is that you can get you can just basically bankrupt because you're building something else to keep, right? I don't know. It's bad. The bill is bad. The bill is bad. The big bad bill. I don't know. Here we are. It's like my living room. I've got to clean my living room. I just can't seem to get the energy to go out and clean my living room. But I know if I cleaned my living room, I'd be okay. I'd feel better. It's like a cycle. But here we go. We're just kind of like, we're moving along. And again, I think one of the things I was talking about last week was like the normalization of the madness. That actions taken to push this country further into chaos, that's all normalized and okay. Whereas, if a Democrat was doing something like this, I hate to say that, but I really do wonder, like, why is it so different when someone on the in the Democratic Party, like, why does it change? Why do people recoil so fast? Yeah, I mean, I don't think they need us, Josh. I don't think they're going to need. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't. I don't get it. I can't work my way into the logic behind how all these things work. Yes. That's right. After the first 4 years, the dust doesn't get any worse. That's true. I know, but I still do need to clean my living room. Speaking of which, I probably should get to that. Actually, I'm going to sit for a minute and then I'm going to clean my living room. Well, thank you for coming today. Sorry it was a little, the usual. Sorry it was the usual. But don't fret. We'll get out of this alive, I guess. I don't know. I hope so. I don't know. All right. Okay, well, today, I'm not sure if I'm going to do a Twitter space today or not. I'll check with my friends and see if they're into it. I'm really getting tired of Twitter, and I just I don't want to play there anymore. I don't want to play at Twitter anymore. Can I just say that? And I want Blue Sky, I want you to give Lolo the right to hold a space. You're testing spaces, and I want you to test spaces on Lolo. I could do a Discord space. You know what I want to do? I still want to do Lolo Cella. What are you guys doing? I have a music day. I want to do a music night with you guys. But this week we are doing Documentary Tuesday. I think we have a documentary. GP suggested a documentary about Liza Minnelli, which would be kind of fun. And also my sister recommended a documentary about Naples made by Trudy Styler in 2023. Which I'm kind of interested. I'm not a huge fan of Trudy Styler, but she isn't a bad filmmaker. So apparently that's a really beautiful documentary about Naples too. So there's that. Liza Minnelli would be super fun. And then we'll have Friday night movies, obviously. I'm going to be live every morning this week, except for Fridays. I'm going to try taking Friday mornings off. And still doing everything else. That's the only change. But I think that'll put me in a better position to really be energetic going into Saturday. Because I want to still protest and other things on Saturdays. And I want to not be so, well, anyway. I just want to have enough energy. Yes, Naples, Italy, not Florida. So we've got some good stuff. So now it's fuck Financial Fridays. So now, yeah, fuck Financial Fridays. Well, I actually think financial might move to Mondays in our monetary mayhem or whatever it was. Monetary malaise. Yes, spread less thin. Yeah, I think it'd be good for me to regenerate on Friday during the day. Doing the Discord is super easy. That doesn't take as much energy as going live. So anyway, I think it'll be good. And we'll try it. Because I love Saturdays, and I love that, we have so much fun. I want to be energetic for that. I want to have I'm glad to be back. I kind of miss the desert. I feel really lucky. I have a great life and everything, but there's parts of my life, and I'm sure there's parts of your life that are super lonely and just not, I don't have like the companionship that some people have and stuff like that. And so sometimes I get really depressed about that. I'm just being honest. I'm fine. Otherwise, everything's fine. But I just kind of get a little lonely in life. But this is nice, and that's why I like this so much. I'm sorry about the Elmo voice, though. Now I'm scared to do it again. Because I'm scared it'll stay. Anyway, yes, cleaning is going to be very therapeutic for me. I'm actually really excited. I have some ideas of the things I want to do to the living room that I think will be fun. Make it really cozy. All right. Hey, thank you so much for coming. Thanks for coming back. I love you guys. Yeah, right? Like, we're all there. Nothing I go through is unusual for sure. But I tend to say it out loud, so there you go. What you see is what you get. After the first 30 seconds of Elmo voice, oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah, anyway. Okay, I'm going to let you go. I love you guys. Have a great Monday. Fuck Mondays. Fuck Mondays. But hey, it's Memorial Day. Thank you for spending part of it with me. Have a great day. I hope you can get some time off of work if you're so inclined, and that you're able to restore and refresh. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Okay. All right. Okay. Bye.